The story begins with our main character purchasing a mountain. Why? He was tired of dealing with people just like us. After his engagement ended, he felt fed up with everything. He decided he didn't need a partner anymore. Through a relative, he ended up buying not just one, but 2 mountains so he could live alone. There was a livable house halfway up one of the mountains, and he chose to stay there. After spending 3 lonely days by himself, he went to a nearby village and found out they were holding a festival. While walking around, he saw some small, colorful chicks being sold at one of the stalls. He thought it was rare to see something like that, so he bought 3 chicks with painted heads. He hoped they would help ease his loneliness. Since he had some extra money, he also bought chicken feed before heading back home. But something was different about these chicks. They had strange, dark tails sticking out, and they quickly grew much bigger than normal chickens. A month went by, and our main character, Shohei Sano, still had no interest in dating or getting married. Instead, he enjoyed taking care of the green plants growing on his mountain. The weather was warm and the grass grew fast. He wished he could get some of that energy for himself. He grabbed his grass cutter and started mowing. Even after working almost the whole day, the grass still seemed endless. At least the chickens helped by eating the cut grass, so none of it went to waste. Sano also began growing vegetables. Worried about bugs, he tried making a natural pesticide he saw on TV, but the smell was so strong that the chickens couldn't stand it. Anyways, let's talk about his chickens. They grew fast, but they were much bigger than normal chickens. This surprised him, and he started to wonder if chickens could really grow that big. It had only been a month, but they were already over 50 centimeters long. One of them, Pochi, had a big red comb on his head and looked a bit mean. Another chicken, Tama, had sleepy-looking eyes, and Yuma had eyes that looked very innocent. Tama and Yuma also acted a little playfully. Sano noticed something strange. The chickens people sold at festivals were usually males that weren't good enough to keep. One time, an old man in the village offered to help him if he ever needed to kill the chickens. But Sano said no. He cared about his chickens and wanted to stay with them until they died naturally. Then something unusual happened. One day, Pochi saw a snake. The snake tried to scare him by showing its fangs, but Pochi stared back without fear. Somehow, the snake ended up being the one that looked scared, like it had become the prey instead. There were more strange things too. Sano once got annoyed with the grass growing all over his place and said he wished it would never grow back. He was really frustrated. Then something shocking happened. Pochi spoke. He repeated the same words Sano just said. Right after that, Tama and Yuma did the same. Sano started sweating. He couldn't believe what he heard. He wondered if his chickens were actually parrots or some kind of talking birds. He had never heard chickens talk before. When he asked what was going on, Pochi repeated his question. Tama and Yuma copied it too. Sano just hoped they would stop copying everything he said. All of a sudden, Tama made a surprising move, and Sano asked what was going on. It turned out that Tama had caught another pit viper. Sano, as always, thought Tama was amazing. He picked up a plastic bottle and carefully let the snake slide into it. Then he thanked Tama. The chicken seemed happy and kept wagging its tail. Sano remembered that it was usually the chickens that got attacked by snakes, not the other way around. Just then, Yuma flew off somewhere and came back with a pit viper in his beak. Sano started to realize that the area might be too dangerous, with so many snakes crawling around. After seeing another snake caught by Yuma, he told the chickens they could eat it. Everyone seemed surprised, but they began eating the snake. Sano thought it was scary to watch chickens eat a pit viper, but he didn't say anything. He felt like the chickens might understand him if he did. Anyway, this was what Sano's life looked like these days. A river flowed nearby, and people said the area was called Sawayama because of all the water. The house he lived in used to belong to the village headman, who moved to a nearby village at the base of the mountain 3 years ago due to poor health from aging. So when Sano arrived, the house was almost ready to live in. He had bought the mountain on a whim, just to get away from his old life. He didn't really know what living in the mountains would be like. If it weren't for an old man from the village, someone who was a friend of his mother's relatives, Sano probably would have given up early. That old man lent him a small truck and made a list of things he would need to live in the mountains. He also taught Sano how to catch pit vipers. It all started about 2 weeks ago when Pochi brought home a snake. Pochi always came over to show off the snakes he caught, and it surprised Sano every time. What confused him even more was that Pochi wanted to eat the snake. Sano wasn't sure what to do, but told the chicken it was okay. After that, since the chicken saw Sano as their owner, the other two, Tama and Yuma, started bringing back pit vipers too. Sano once shouted, wondering just how many snakes lived in that mountain. The old man heard that Sano had been feeding pit vipers to the chickens and thought it was a waste. He believed the number of snakes had gone up since people stopped visiting the mountain. Sano guessed the snakes had been hiding in empty houses, and were now coming out because the weather had gotten warmer. The old man asked Sano to catch one snake alive next time. He said he would buy it because he wanted to make a drink using pit viper. Sano said he couldn't do something that scary. So the old man offered to teach him how. He was already surprised that the chickens could catch and eat pit vipers. Still, he told Sano to bring him a live snake every 3 days. If there were any extras, he said the chickens could eat them. That happened a week ago. Now, Sano drove his small truck to the old man's house with Yuma. The old man was surprised to see how big the chicken had grown. He also realized that Yuma was female. Sano agreed that it seemed that way, and they both wondered if she could lay eggs. Sano hoped she could. For some reason, Yuma seemed embarrassed. Sano then said that their main focus wasn't the chickens but the pit vipers. He took out 2 plastic bottles with the snakes inside. The old man was impressed that Sano had caught 2 by himself. He promised to give Sano a reward, which left Sano confused. The old man's wife came out and gave Sano some refreshments. Sano thanked her politely. She seemed worried about how many pit vipers had been showing up. Sano said he was okay for now, but there might be a place nearby where the snakes were living and breeding. The wife thought about calling an exterminator since they didn't have much to do. But Sano told her it wasn't necessary. His chickens were good at catching snakes. She was surprised and asked which chicken caught the snake that day. Sano said it was Yuma. The wife was impressed and praised the chicken. She brought out some vegetables as a treat and Yuma clucked happily and ate them. Sano could tell that Yuma really seemed to understand what they were saying. The old man gave Sano 1,000 yen for each pit viper he caught, along with some vegetables as a bonus. Sano thanked him and gladly accepted the reward. The wife also brought out extra drinks and canned food they had received as gifts for New Year's and mid-year. She said her sons would just get upset if she tried to send the canned goods to them. Sano accepted everything and drove off in his small truck. For now, he could only buy meat from the nearby village, but thanks to the kind couple, he now had canned meat at home. As he drove, he asked Yuma if she had eaten a lot. Yuma clucked in reply. Sano stopped at a small store in the countryside. He saw some kids looking at candies, and he enjoyed watching them. Then the kids noticed Yuma and were surprised by how big she was. They couldn't believe a chicken could grow that large. One of them asked if Yuma was already laying eggs, but Sano said she was only 1 month old. The kids were shocked that a chicken could grow so much in just a month. Yuma felt shy and walked behind Sano. The villagers were pretty relaxed and didn't seem bothered that the chickens could understand what people were saying. In fact, Sano guessed they thought it was helpful. Then the old shop owner welcomed Sano and mentioned that one of his neighbors from the mountains had visited earlier. Sano felt confused. It was the first time he had heard about a neighbor. Sano finally realized that someone was living on the nearby mountain. When he left the store, he thought he might have forgotten to greet a neighbor. At first, he believed the next mountain was far away, so he didn't think anyone would be that close. He wondered if bringing soba noodles as a gift would be a polite thing to do. Sano then called the old man on the phone. After Sano mentioned the neighboring mountains, the old man seemed nervous and uneasy. He handed the phone to his wife and asked her about the houses around Sano's place. The old man's wife spoke to Sano. She said that on the east side, there was a girl who had lived there for 2 years. On the west side, someone else had been there for 3 years. She heard that both had moved from the city to the countryside for some reason. She also remembered that both mountains had warning signs about wild animals. Sano figured the signs were meant to keep people from entering those mountains. He asked the old man's wife if it was normal to see signs about wild animals. She said there weren't any animals close by, but she had heard of wild boars in the area. She also warned him that a bear might show up on his mountain too. After hearing that, Sano started to sweat. Even though bears are wild animals, many people don't really understand how dangerous they are because they usually see them looking calm in zoos. But Sano remembered a scary story he once read about the Mikabiri bear incident in Hokkaido, where bears attacked people. He wished he had gotten a hunting license before moving to the mountains. He realized he had taken things too lightly, but he also learned that hunting wasn't just about shooting. The main method was trapping. That was how the animals were usually dealt with. He had heard that some people in a nearby village had hunting licenses, but their numbers were going down every year because most of them were getting old. If a bear really did show up, Sano knew he would have to find a way to handle it himself. The chickens noticed that Sano was feeling scared, so they gathered around him for comfort. He reminded them to be careful because there were bears nearby. To relax, Sano decided to take a bath and invited the chickens to join him. But Pochi and Tama didn't want to go. Only Yuma followed him into the bath. While bathing, Sano suddenly remembered that he forgot to ask the couple about pests in the area. If something ruined his crops, it would be a big problem. At that moment, he realized that living in the mountains was tougher than he expected. While in the bath, Tama saw a rubber duck floating on the water. It reminded her of when she was just a little chick. She looked out the window at the night sky, lost in thought. The next morning, Sano was shocked to find a dead wild boar in his backyard. Pochi and Tama were sitting proudly on top of it. Sano broke into a cold sweat. He remembered the chickens had run off early in the morning and stayed away for a while. He wondered if they had really hunted the boar. Pochi clucked in response. Sano was completely speechless. He had no choice but to call the old man from the village. When the old man arrived, he was surprised to see such a large wild boar. He asked Sano how he caught it, and Sano explained that it was actually the chickens. The old man was amazed and asked the chickens how they did it. Sano said he didn't know. When he came back from his patrol, the boar was already lying on the ground. The old man thought it was impressive. Pochi looked proud and even wagged his tail. Then the old man asked what Sano planned to do with the boar. Sano said he wanted to eat the meat but didn't know how to cut it up properly. The old man offered to find someone who could do it for him. While all this was happening, Yuma heard something rustling in the bushes nearby. The old man said it was hard to cool the meat, so he told Sano to come back the next night. He couldn't prepare everything at Sano's place. Sano felt like he was being a bother, but he still asked the old man to let the neighbors know. The old man agreed, saying the wild boar was too big anyway, so he would call the others over. He then told the chickens they could eat first since they were the ones who caught the boar. For now, he would take the meat and get it ready for them. He told the 3 chickens to go with Sano to his place. Pochi answered for the group, and Sano thanked the old man for his help. The old man was surprised that the chickens were able to hunt a wild boar, but he warned them not to go after baby boars. He explained that baby boars were the young ones, and if people hunted them, the adult boars would quickly have more. That would cause problems. Sano and the chickens understood what he meant. The old man said that adult wild boars could have up to 4 babies. When they were raising their young, they didn't have more right away, but if the babies were gone, they would start breeding again fast. That made things worse. Wild boars damaged crops, so people had to build fences and use other ways to stop them, but those things cost money. There were loud machines made to scare the boars away, but after a few years, the animals got used to the noise, so having chickens that could hunt wild boars was actually a big help. For now, the old man took the wild boar, and Sano helped him lift it into the truck. Just then, Yuma gave the old man a pit viper. He was surprised and said he would pay her the next day. Sano said it was fine since the man was already helping with the wild boar, but the old man called Sano silly and said this was different. After the old man left, Sano realized that living in the mountains wasn't as relaxing as he had thought. But even so, it still felt right to say thank you when someone helped him. So he thanked Yuma for what she did. When he found out they would be getting wild boar meat, he suddenly started craving hot pot. The chickens kept repeating the word hot pot, and Sano wondered why that word stuck with them out of everything they heard. He also started to wonder if the neighbors might come too. It would be nice to meet more people. The next morning, Sano was woken up by someone calling out to him. Still half asleep, he opened the door and saw Tama standing there, staring at him. That's when he realized Tama had come over just to wake him up. He noticed that the 3 chickens seemed restless. He reminded them that they were supposed to visit the old man later that night, not in the morning. The 3 hungry chickens walked off. That evening, Sano and the chickens went to the old man's house. When they got there, the other villagers were already eating, drinking, and having a good time. The old man teased Sano for arriving late. The villagers thanked Sano for catching the wild boar and for the meal. Sano said he actually felt like he owed them more, but the old man joked that Sano hadn't even done anything. Sano saw that people were already grilling meat and he felt a little guilty for not showing up earlier. He said sorry to the old man's wife, but she didn't mind at all. She told him they were making wild boar hot pot and asked if he was okay with that. Sano said he was. Then she called the chickens over and showed them the animal parts she had saved just for them. Pochi clucked, almost like he was saying thank you. Watching the 3 chickens eat happily, Sano thanked the old man's wife again. She just smiled and told him not to worry about it. Just then, someone else showed up late and apologized. A girl named Mia arrived and was warmly welcomed by the old man's wife. As she walked in, Sano noticed something crawling behind her. He wasn't sure what it was, but it caught his attention. Even though there were big melons hanging in front of Sano, he was more interested in something moving on the ground. Maya said sorry for not helping, but a villager said it was okay. Then the woman introduced Sano to Maya and told them to get along. Maya greeted Sano quickly, then looked away. For some reason, this made Sano feel a little uneasy. The woman with black hair introduced Sano's large chickens, then showed Mia's huge lizard. Mia said she might need to stay away from the chickens. Sano didn't understand at first, but then the lizard behind Mia started crawling toward him. He was shocked. It wasn't just a lizard, it looked more like a crocodile or a small dinosaur. It scared him a lot. He asked if the lizard ate almost anything. Mia said she scolded it often. Then an old man called Sano over. Sano said excuse me and walked to him. The old man introduced someone named Akimoto who had helped with butchering a wild boar. Sano thanked him and Akimoto said it was no trouble. He was glad to keep his butchering skills sharp. He also asked if it was true that Sano's chickens had caught the boar. The old man said the chickens were amazing. They could even catch dangerous snakes like pit vipers. Akimoto asked for a share the next time the chickens caught something new. Another man nearby said they were lucky to drink such rare wine. He offered Sano 3,000 yen for each catch. The old man joked that if people paid more, he wouldn't get any meat himself. Then the black-haired woman announced that the food was ready, and everyone enjoyed the meal together. At the same time, Tama was watching the lizard eat its portion of meat. The lizard stared at the meat and imagined how the chickens had hunted the wild boar. It felt amazed and even bowed to Tama, showing respect. The next morning, Sano woke up and saw that the other villagers were around him. He stepped out of the bedroom and found the old man's wife and Mia cooking in the kitchen. For some reason, he found Mia nice to look at. He greeted them and asked for some water. The two mountain villagers gave each other a quiet bow. The old man's wife asked if Sano had gotten to know Mia. Sano said he only knew her first name. Mia, looking a bit shy, quickly said her full name and mentioned that she lived on the mountain east of his. Sano seemed happy to hear that and explained he had just moved there a month ago, so he didn't know much about the area yet. He said he'd be thankful if she could teach him about taking care of the mountain during different seasons, even just the basics. Mia said she didn't mind at all. After that, Sano finally got his water and asked where his chickens were. The old man's wife told him they were in the garden, eating leftover vegetables. Sano thanked her and went outside to check on them. Mia also went out to look after her lizard. Outside, the animals were relaxing in the garden under the bright sky. Sano saw Mia's lizard and wondered if it was a Komodo dragon. He called to his chickens and only one, Yuma, came right away. She looked at him like she was asking if something was wrong. As he petted Yuma, Sano noticed his chickens had grown even more. He wondered if eating the wild boar's insides made them grow, though it still seemed too fast. Mia stared closely at the chickens, then asked what kind of tails they had. Sano, a bit surprised, said he also noticed their tails looked more like reptiles than birds. Mia thought for a moment, then said chickens came from dinosaurs, so maybe the tails were a throwback from their ancient past. Sano agreed that could be true. Then he asked about her lizard. Maya said its name was Tatsuki. She agreed it was big for a lizard and explained she had bought it at a festival 2 years ago. Sano was surprised and told her he had also bought his chicks from a festival stall. They both found that funny and stayed quiet for a moment. Then they looked at each other and laughed. Sano said that Tatsuki looked more like a dragon than a lizard. Tatsuki gave him a sharp look and nodded. That made Sano wonder if Tatsuki was actually a dragon. Mia got excited and said it would be a dream come true if her lizard really was a dragon. She asked Tatsuki if that was true. She even joked that if that were the case, then Sano's chickens must be cockatrices. Those big, scary chickens from stories that could turn people into stone just by looking at them. Sano got nervous and remembered those monsters from fantasy books. Mia apologized for getting carried away and said she was just a big fan of fantasy stories. Sano said he kind of agreed with her because his chickens had tails that looked like reptiles, and they seemed to be getting bigger. Sano then asked what Tatsuki ate. Mia, with tears in her eyes from laughing too much, said he ate almost anything. But she found it strange that Tatsuki never tried to attack Sano's chickens. Sano asked if the lizard ever attacked animals. Mia said Tatsuki could catch and eat big birds too. Sano tried to picture that and thought it was pretty wild. He then asked if there were many pit vipers on her mountain. Mia said there were, and Tatsuki usually caught and ate them. Sano felt scared just thinking about it. Then Sano asked about wild boars. Mia said the boars usually ran away before Tatsuki could get to them. She also said there were deer and sometimes Tatsuki would sneak up and eat one. Sano was now really starting to think Tatsuki might be a dragon after all. Mia told Tatsuki to catch another deer next time so they could all eat together. Tatsuki nodded. Sano started to wonder if Tatsuki could actually understand what they were saying, just like his chickens sometimes seem to. Later, Sano curiously asked if anyone knew the person living on the west side of the mountain. An old man said he thought it was a man, but he didn't see him very often. He only noticed that there was always a long-haired woman riding in the passenger seat of the man's truck. That made Sano feel a little down as he remembered his ex-girlfriend who also had long black hair. May was coming, but he didn't notice it right away because he lived in the mountains. It was the blooming cherry blossoms that helped him realize the month had arrived. He went to the graveyard to clean his family's tombstone. While he was cleaning, he remembered that he hadn't done any flower viewing this year. After finishing, he got into his small truck and decided to go flower viewing. Yuma, his chicken, seemed curious and repeated the word like a question. Sano placed some offerings on the grave, then sat on the grass and shared his lunch with Yuma. Yuma kept saying flower viewing over and over. This made Sano realize that his chicken thought the green vegetables in the lunch were the flowers he was talking about. Sano then pointed to the cherry blossoms and explained that flower viewing meant watching the flowers fall while eating and drinking. Somehow the chicken understood and happily jumped around while repeating the words flower viewing. Sano returned to the family grave and prayed that he could enjoy flower viewing again next year when the blossoms returned. Next time he hoped Pochi and Tama could join them too. While Pochi and Tama were relaxing on the veranda, Pochi stayed alert even though everything seemed peaceful. He sensed something nearby and quickly caught a pit viper. Later, Sano came home and looked at the calendar. That's when he realized that the next day was the start of Golden Week. Since he didn't have work anymore, he had lost track of the days. He remembered what the old lady from the shop said about holidays. Many people go back to their hometowns or travel, so places get crowded. It wasn't strange for people to return home during holidays, but there were also tourists who camped in the mountains without permission. They often left trash behind. Some even took wild vegetables and bamboo shoots without asking. In the case of Sano's mountain, there was barbed wire at the bottom to keep people out, but some still broke in. Warning signs were already posted to keep people away, and to let them know there could be wild animals around. Sano decided he would do some patrolling the next morning. The chickens repeated the word patrol together. As Sano got ready to sleep, the chickens suddenly felt that something was wrong. The three of them went to the door and looked back at him. He noticed they wanted to go outside, something they had never done before at night. Curious and a bit concerned, he grabbed a flashlight and followed them. As soon as the door opened, Pochi ran ahead. Yuma quickly followed. Tama kept pecking at Sano like she was telling him to move faster. Sano said it hurt and rushed to keep up with them. He found it hard to walk through the dark mountain. The chickens soon stopped running and Sano noticed some loud rustling sounds nearby. He started to feel nervous. Then he heard someone stopping a person named Rin from going into someone's house. Sano called out asking if someone was there and pointed his flashlight toward the sound. The light landed on a man and the man quickly covered his eyes. At the same time, Pochi came out of the bushes with grass stuck all over him. Sano asked what had happened. Then the man stepped forward and asked if they were in the southern part of the mountain. Sano said he was the owner of that part. The man said sorry for bothering them and introduced himself as Aikawa, the owner of the western part of the mountain. Sano finally realized who he was and said sorry for not visiting him yet. Aikawa said it was okay, especially since the mountains were steep and hard to travel through. Pochi gave Sano a look and Sano remembered he had something to ask. He asked Aikawa why he had come so late at night. Aikawa scratched his head trying to explain what was going on. Just then, Sano saw something behind him that made him panic. A pale woman with black hair. He looked like he just saw a ghost. Aikawa agreed that she looked really scary. Sano began to worry that the place they were in might be where samurais from long ago were buried. He got so scared that his legs gave out. Luckily, his chickens stayed close, ready to protect him. Aikawa said sorry for surprising him. Then he called over the girl named Rin and gently moved her bangs to show her face. Even then, Sano was still confused. It was strange to see a woman outside at night, especially coming from the nearby mountain. He even wondered if the two were having some kind of argument. He said he would just leave if nothing was wrong. Aikawa apologized again and asked if Sano would be free the next day. Sano said yes. Aikawa said he would come by again and asked if that was okay. Sano gave him the go-ahead. Aikawa said he'd visit in the afternoon, then walked away with Rin. After they left, Sano wondered why they went through the back of the mountain instead of using the road. Maybe there was a shortcut. He wasn't sure what it all meant. His chickens copying his words seemed just as curious. Sano headed home feeling tired. The chickens repeated what he said. They kept pecking at him at first, but it wasn't too bad as they ate the bugs and leaves stuck to him. Sano figured he should just get some sleep and get ready for Aikawa's visit the next day. Still, he couldn't help but think that his neighbor looked handsome. The next day, Sano saw a lot of trash in the mountain area. As he cleaned it up, he thought about what happened the night before. He asked Yuma if she could see well in the dark. Yuma gently pecked him, but she didn't make much noise, so Sano couldn't tell for sure. He just decided that chickens must be able to see at night. Still, what really surprised him was how much trash was lying around. Yuma seemed to agree. Sano realized he needed to be more careful when people entered his area without permission. Later that afternoon, Aikawa came to visit and said sorry for being late. Sano noticed a girl sitting quietly in the light truck and asked about her. Aikawa told him not to worry, she was just shy. Sano couldn't help but feel a little jealous. Even though the girl was shy, she stayed close to Aikawa, and that made Sano wish he had someone like that too. All of a sudden, Pochi started screeching loudly while facing the light truck. Sano told him to stop and asked what was wrong. Aikawa said it was nothing to worry about. It happened a lot. Then he said Sano's chickens were really something. Tama looked proud after hearing that. Sano then invited Aikawa into his house. Earlier, Pochi had been looking for pit vipers but couldn't find any. At that moment, Aikawa drove by in his light truck with the quiet girl who had pale skin and black hair. For some reason, Pochi kept staring at her with a serious look. Back in the present, Sano was surprised when Aikawa gave him an expensive gift. Aikawa explained that he had received a lot of money from a farmer who owed him, so he wanted Sano to have something. Sano thanked him. Then Aikawa became serious and said sorry for what happened the night before. Sano told him it was no big deal. After that, Aikawa asked if Sano's chickens originally came from the mountains. Sano said yes, and shared that 3 days after he moved there, he went to a festival and bought 3 colorful baby chicks. Aikawa was surprised that those kinds of booths still existed. Sano also mentioned that the colors had faded from the chickens over time. Aikawa then asked if Sano had met Mia, who lived on the east side of the mountains. Sano said he had met her a few days earlier. He was curious why Aikawa suddenly brought her up. Aikawa got serious again and asked if Sano had seen the animals Mia kept. Sano said yes, he saw a really big lizard that looked more like a dragon. Aikawa said he was also shocked when he first saw it. But when he asked around, people told him that Mia also bought the lizard from the festival. Then Sano asked if Aikawa had something like that too. Aikawa said that when he first moved to the area 3 years ago, he bought 2 small snakes at the festival. He made sure they weren't dangerous when he got them, but then he let out a sigh like something was bothering him. Sano asked what the problem was. He wondered if the snakes had also grown really big. Aikawa said yes, the snakes he bought were the kind that grow very large. Sano asked if they were pythons. Aikawa said they might be, but he didn't know why they had grown so much. When Aikawa looked more closely, he noticed that Sano's chickens were quite large. Sano said he had just measured them recently, and found out they were about 50 centimeters long. Aikawa also saw that the chickens didn't have feathered tails. Sano explained that their tails looked more like a lizard's. A few days earlier, Maya had even said the chickens might be cockatrices, creatures from legends. Aikawa suddenly shouted that he believed it was true. He said he didn't know why, but the animals sold at the village festival seemed like they were some kind of mythical creatures. Sano wasn't so sure and said it might just be a strange mutation, but Aikawa didn't think that was the case with his snakes. Sano then joked that maybe Aikawa's snakes would grow extra heads or something. Aikawa told him that he had already seen it. Sano looked confused. Aikawa reminded him about the one with long hair and a white face that was sitting in the passenger seat of his light truck. Suddenly Sano understood what Aikawa meant and was shocked by what he had just heard. Meanwhile, outside, Pochi kept making angry screeching sounds at something. After a few seconds of silence, Sano asked if Aikawa was joking. Aikawa stood up and told Sano that he would introduce him to her. They both walked outside. Pochi was still making loud noises at the woman in the light truck. For some reason, Tama kept pecking at Sano like she was trying to warn him. Sano said he would be careful. Aikawa then told the girl named Rin that the chickens belonged to Sano and asked her not to harm them. Rin said she wouldn't. The door opened, and Rin stepped out of the passenger seat. From the waist up, she looked like a normal person, but her lower body was a snake. Sano became nervous and scared, though he didn't say anything. Aikawa told Sano that Rin was one of the creatures he looked after, and that another one was still in the mountains. Sano looked at Rin from head to tail. She looked like a beautiful woman, but the snake body underneath was shocking. Pochi then started clucking angrily at Rin. Rin leaned her tail on Aikawa without thinking. Aikawa said she was heavy, and Rin told him to stop complaining. Sano told Pochi that Aikawa was taking care of Rin and there was no need to be on guard anymore. Pochi seemed to understand. Sano then asked if Aikawa really bought a regular snake. Aikawa said he also had a huge male snake that stayed looking like a normal snake. But one day Rin just woke up like this. Sano started feeling dizzy after hearing that. At first he wanted to believe that the chickens and Mia's lizard were just strange animals. But after seeing Rin, he began to feel like he was stuck in a dream or on a prank show. Out of nowhere, Rin asked if she could eat bugs. Sano was too shocked to say anything at first until Aikawa asked if it was okay for Rin to eat the bugs around them. Pochi made a clucking sound almost like he was saying yes. Sano gave them permission but told them to stick to eating pests. Aikawa said that wouldn't be a problem at all. Then, Aikawa heard the sound of running water and asked if there was a river nearby. He said if there were crayfish, his snakes would love to eat them. Sano was surprised that Aikawa's snakes also helped by eating harmful animals. While Rin searched the grass for bugs, Sano asked if snakes ever ate each other. Aikawa said smaller snakes usually got eaten, but he didn't think there were any snakes bigger than Rin around here. Sano agreed. If giant snakes were around, that would be scary. He then shared that there were a lot of pit vipers in his area. Aikawa asked if he should let Rin handle them. Sano said not to worry, his chickens liked eating them too. Still, Sano felt a little uneasy about how Aikawa said Rin would take care of them. Aikawa was happy to know that Sano had a way to deal with the vipers. He said it would be a big problem if Sano got bitten by something poisonous. That's when Sano realized Aikawa was actually a nice guy. Sano then asked if wild boars or bears showed up in Aikawa's area. Aikawa said he had never seen a bear, but he thought his snakes once caught and ate a whole wild boar. Sano didn't even want to imagine that. He shared that his chickens once caught a wild boar too. Aikawa said he had heard that story in the village after Sano shared the meat with everyone. He even thought about sharing the next one too. Sano said everyone would be thankful for that. Then, Sano asked if there were a lot of wild boars in Aikawa's area. Aikawa explained that since there weren't many farms and there were a lot of trees, wild boars were increasing. Also, fewer people were hunting these days. He added that he had a hunting license. Sano was surprised and asked if Aikawa also had a hunting rifle. Aikawa said yes and told Sano to just let him know if he ever needed help. Sano thought Aikawa was really impressive and dependable. He couldn't be sure, but he guessed Aikawa might be older than him. Yuma suddenly ran off and came back with a pit viper. Sano thanked her and stepped away for a moment. Aikawa watched as Sano picked up the snake with his bare hands and calmly put it inside a plastic bottle. Aikawa said Sano was impressive. Sano said he learned it from the old man Yumoto, but also said it wasn't easy on his heart. Even so, Aikawa still thought it was amazing and asked what Sano planned to do with the snake. Sano said he would give it to Yumoto because he was going to use it to make pit viper sake. Aikawa agreed that it sounded useful. The day was almost over and it was time for Aikawa and Rin to go home. Sano promised to visit them next time. After they left, Sano said the whole thing was surprising. The chickens seemed to agree. He was surprised that Aikawa had a snake, but even more surprised that the snake listened to her so well. Just then, Sano's phone rang. It was old man Yumoto saying he would visit soon to gather wild vegetables in the area. Sano thanked him and ended the call. If it were someone he knew, Sano didn't mind them picking vegetables without asking. But it would be different if a stranger came. For now, he knew he had to be more careful when unknown people showed up. He wondered how to stay alert. Then he stretched his arms and said he would patrol around the bottom of the mountain again. The next morning, Pochi found some bamboo shoots. He remembered seeing Sano enjoy them before, so he decided to try a bite. But he didn't like the taste and quickly spit it out. At the same time, Sano was at the foot of the mountain with Tama, picking up trash. While cleaning, he got a call from an old man who said he had some bamboo shoots to share. He asked Sano to come over to his house the next day. Sano was surprised. He didn't know bamboo shoots could still be found in early May. But he did remember there was a bamboo grove near the border of Aikawa's mountain. Speaking of Aikawa, Sano had heard that he put up many warning signs about wild animals. Sano wondered if the signs were talking about his snakes. He understood the feeling. His own chickens would chase away any strangers who came too close. He also knew it wouldn't be easy or practical to cover the whole mountain with barbed wire to keep people out. Sano used to think that owning a mountain would be relaxing, but now he was doing things like cleaning up after tourists, which he didn't expect. Even though it was hard work, he still loved the mountain. His chickens made the tough days feel better. Just then, his phone rang. It was Mia calling. When he answered, her panicked voice came through the speaker. She was shouting and asking for help. She said she had no one else to turn to. Sano wondered if something serious had happened. He asked Mia where she wanted him to go, saying he would head there quickly. Maya said sorry and asked him to come to her place in the mountains. Sano stayed calm and asked if someone from her village could help instead. Mia said she couldn't count on anyone else. Sano understood. Just from hearing her voice, he could tell she was panicking. He guessed something bad must have happened. Sano told the chickens that he was going to Mia's house and asked what they would do while he was gone. Tama and Yuma stepped forward, showing they wanted to go with him. Sano asked Pochi to stay behind and keep watch. Pochi nodded. Sano drove his small truck and soon reached Mia's place. He saw the gate was open and thought maybe Mia left it that way for him. He locked the gate behind him and walked to her house. As he parked, Mia ran outside and said sorry for making him come all the way. Sano told her it was fine and asked what had happened. He noticed she looked really shaken. He calmly asked if he could sit down first. They both sat on the porch. Sano asked where Tatsuki was. The lizard was lying near the house enjoying the sunlight. Sano greeted him and asked if the chickens could eat some of the plants nearby. Tatsuki gave a small nod. Mia looked truly scared about something. She kept saying thank you and sorry at the same time. Sano asked her to stop apologizing and things felt a bit awkward again. After a short silence, Mia suddenly stood up and offered to make tea, not realizing she was acting nervous. Sano told her it was okay, but Mia quickly went inside to prepare it anyway. After a while, Mia came back with some drinks. Sano thanked her and mentioned that he had locked the entrance. Mia also thanked him and apologized again. Sano could tell that she was really careful about strangers. Mia said it would be hard to explain everything, but she could give a brief idea. Sano told her it was okay if she didn't want to talk about it. Still, Mia apologized and asked him to listen. Before she moved to the mountains, Mia had lived with her boyfriend who treated her badly. At first, he was kind while they were dating, but once they started living together, he became violent. It was a case of domestic abuse. Afraid for her safety, Mia ran back to her family, but her boyfriend followed her and the police had to get involved. His family gave Mia a lot of money to keep quiet. With that money, she bought land in the mountains and chose to live alone. That happened 2 years ago. Mia thought her ex-boyfriend didn't know where she went, but earlier that day when she went into town to buy things, she heard that a man was asking about her. The man looked like her ex-boyfriend, and it made her panic. That was the main reason she was so worried. Maya said it could have been someone else, but she was still very scared. Sano agreed and felt unsure about what to do next. Even if Maya stayed in the mountains for a while, people might still find out where she was. But he couldn't stay at her place forever either. He asked if anyone else knew about her situation. Maya said the Yamanaka couple knew. But Sano didn't feel like he could count on them, especially since he had heard Mr. Yamanaka didn't like Tatsuki. He then asked if Mrs. Yamanaka knew about Miya's ex-boyfriend asking around. Miya said she hadn't told her yet. Sano suggested that she should, just to be safe. Then he asked Miya what she wanted to do next. Miya didn't know how to answer and just stared at him, unsure of what to say. Sano knew Miya was unsure about what to do, so he gave her 3 choices. First, she could stay hidden in the mountains. Second, she could stay at Yamanaka's house. Third, she could go on with her daily life while quietly gathering information and being careful. Sano said those were the only options he could suggest. When Miya mentioned something about gathering information, Sano said she could ask around to see if anyone had noticed strangers looking for her. He thought it would be a good idea to tell Yamanaka, or even the police in a casual way. But while Mrs. Yamanaka might be easy to talk to, Miya didn't feel comfortable going to the police. Sano then asked if Miya was thinking about hiding away in the mountains. Miya said that might be her only choice. Sano pointed out that even barbed wire wouldn't protect her if her ex somehow found her. He wondered if Tatsuki could sense if someone came onto their property. He suggested asking Tatsuki to watch out for any strangers. He also told Miya to let him know if anything happened, even though he might not always be able to reply right away. It might have seemed a little cold, but Sano couldn't handle everything on his own. Since there was no perfect plan, he told her to stay alert in whatever way worked best for her. After that, things got quiet again, and the silence felt awkward. Sano eventually spoke up and said he was planning to visit Old Man Yumoto the next day. He asked Miya what her plans were. She told him to let the old man know she wanted to come too. Right away, Sano called Yumoto, and the old man agreed to bring Miya along. Sano then told Miya he would contact her when it was time to leave. Miya thanked him for all his help. Miya shared that she had made some bamboo shoot rice and offered some to Sano. Sano said he would like to have some and thanked her. Miya then went back to her house to pack some for him. As she walked away, Sano noticed he had started speaking casually without meaning to. It felt strange to him. Miya soon returned with a boxed portion of the bamboo shoot rice. Sano asked if it was okay to take that much. Miya said she might have cooked more than she needed. After that, Sano went home carrying the food and his chickens. Later, Pochi saw the bamboo shoot rice. He remembered how the bamboo shoots he found in the mountains had tasted bad before, but he still gave it a try, and this time he enjoyed it, just like Sano. At the same time, Sano sent a message to Aikawa. He asked him to let him know if any strangers entered the mountains during Golden Week. After sending the message, Sano sighed and wondered what he had done wrong. In a memory, Sano thought about his fiancée. She was only supposed to go abroad for a month, but instead she suddenly ended their relationship. Sano had already booked the wedding venue. She just said sorry and ended the call. It had been 3 years since Sano started working at a local company. He had saved enough money to propose. He never thought that right before they were supposed to get married, she would leave him. Yuma noticed Sano looking down and offered comfort. Sano thanked her. It had only been 3 months since the breakup, but living in the mountains helped him forget most of the pain. However, after hearing Miya's story, the memories came back. He couldn't believe he was trying to help others when he still hadn't figured out how to deal with his own feelings. The next day, Sano drove out to visit the old man. Yuma jumped into the small truck with him, but Pochi and Tama ran off into the mountains, like they were saying they didn't want any wild vegetables. That was fine. There were plenty of things they could find and eat in the wild anyway. Before heading to the old man's house, Sano stopped at the grocery store. He asked the shop owner if any tourists were coming by. The owner said there were a few, but not many. Most of them were people coming back to visit their hometowns with their families. Sano guessed that the rest might be out camping. The owner nodded and said most tourists were hiking or looking for wild vegetables. Sano was surprised that people would come all the way out to the countryside just for that. The owner agreed, saying there really wasn't much else to see in the area. After that, Sano finally arrived at Old Man Yumoto's house. He gave them a small gift he had picked up at the store. Yumoto's wife said he didn't need to do that, since the wild vegetables came from the mountain near his place anyway. Sano explained that he was still thankful, since he wasn't very good at cooking by himself. Then Yumoto's wife noticed Yuma and offered him some vegetable scraps. Yuma quietly nodded in thanks. She also remembered that Miya was supposed to visit but said she didn't have anything to feed Miya's big lizard. Sano told her not to worry. Miya would bring something, and since the lizard was a reptile, it was okay if it didn't eat for a few days. Yumoto's wife hoped that was true. Soon after, Miya showed up and said sorry for being late. She brought some wild ferns as a gift. Yumoto's wife was happy since they had just finished eating their last batch. She decided to make some tempura with the new ones. At last, Old Man Yumoto came out. Sano took out a plastic bottle that had a pit viper inside. Miya got scared when she saw it, and Sano quickly said sorry for surprising her. In no time, the old man's wife cooked a meal using wild vegetables. Yumoto raised his glass and made a toast to the blessings of the mountain and to Sano's springtime. Sano and Mia didn't understand what he meant. Sano got the part about the mountain, but he asked what springtime meant. Yumoto thought something special was going on since Sano brought a girl from the eastern mountain. Then Yumoto's wife hit him on the head with a rolled-up newspaper. She said sorry to Sano, and said she would deal with her husband later. Sano said it was no problem. Mia stayed quiet. After they ate, Mia thanked Sano for inviting her. Sano said the thanks should go to her since she helped make the meal special. On his way home, Sano realized Golden Week was almost over. He hoped nothing strange would happen before it ended. Then he noticed his chickens staring at him. He asked what was wrong. They just repeated his question like parrots. Sano thought that kind of peaceful moment was the best. The next morning, Pochi washed himself early in the river. While he was there, he saw something moving under the rocks. Sano later came out to pick up trash and check the area. He was happy that nothing bad had happened and Golden Week was ending quietly. He also remembered hearing that Mia's ex-boyfriend had been busy working when they broke up. So after the holiday, it was unlikely he would show up in the area. Then Pochi found a pit viper. Sano asked if he planned to eat it. For now, he thought it was best to stay alert and keep gathering information. Still, the only real way he could help was by listening. Suddenly, Pochi jumped into the river. Sano wondered if the chicken was looking for dessert. Pochi came out with a crayfish in his beak. Sano worried if it was safe to eat. Seeing the crayfish made him remember that Aikawa once said his snakes could eat them. They had also talked about visiting Aikawa's place, but Sano wasn't good at handling crayfish. He sent Aikawa a text, asking if Rin could eat them. Aikawa said he'd be glad if Sano could bring them alive. Sano then asked Pochi if catching crayfish was easy. Pochi nodded and jumped back into the water before Sano could finish talking about bringing them on their next visit. Sano was surprised and tried to stop him, saying it wasn't the right time. But Pochi got mad. He had already caught another crayfish. 2 days later, Sano finally went to Aikawa's house. Aikawa looked confused when he saw that Sano only brought 2 chickens. Sano said one chicken stayed behind to keep watch. Earlier, he had teased Tama about being scared of Rin, but Tama had pecked him hard in response. Aikawa said Sano's chickens were impressive. Then Sano gave him a bucket full of crawfish, which surprised Aikawa. He even thought about going to the river himself. Sano told him he could visit any time. He said he didn't expect to catch so many, and had only followed the river near his home. Aikawa guessed that someone had probably let the crawfish go in the river, and because the area had lots of plants, the crawfish multiplied. Aikawa said he might visit Sano next time. Then Aikawa called his snakes, Rin and Ten. Rin showed up with a huge snake. Sano was too surprised to speak. Rin thanked Sano for the crawfish and Sano guessed the big snake was Ten. Ten also thanked him. Sano was shocked that the snake could talk. Aikawa reminded Ten that Sano's chickens were part of his family and must not be eaten. Ten agreed. Then Aikawa told Rin to eat once they went inside and to finish all the food. Rin understood. Aikawa led Sano into the house. Inside, Sano was surprised by how nice it looked. Aikawa said he had remodeled it twice since he started living there with Rin and Ten, knowing they would grow bigger. Sano asked if his chickens could eat bugs and grass around the area. Aikawa liked the idea and said the chickens could help with weeding the garden. Sano then asked if Rin and Ten mostly ate meat. Aikawa said yes, and because of that, the snakes couldn't help with weeding. Sano told Pochi, one of his chickens, to eat all the grass and bugs he wanted. Aikawa looked at the chickens again and said they were impressive. Sano also noticed that even the teacups looked fancy. Then he saw a locker and asked what was inside. Aikawa opened it and showed a hunting rifle. Sano was impressed and wondered if he should get a hunting license too, since he heard that bears sometimes appeared in the mountain behind his place. Aikawa said it would be nice to have more people for hunting, but getting into it would cost a lot. He explained that before Sano could get a rifle, he needed a special permit to own a gun, along with a hunting license. Aikawa soon served some food made from wild plants. He told Sano to eat as much as he wanted since he didn't usually have guests at his place. Sano thanked him and asked if it was okay to share some with Yuma. Aikawa was surprised by how helpful the chickens were to the environment and wished his snakes were like that too. Sano said that each animal had its own good points. The crayfish were all eaten, and Rin and Ten cuddled up next to Sano as he was about to leave. He thought they were showing their thanks, but it felt a little creepy. Aikawa told him he could come visit any time. Sano said he would come again. Even though he didn't get the chance to ask about the snakes, Sano still enjoyed talking with Aikawa. After that, they started visiting each other often. As summer got closer, Sano got a strange and urgent call from Aikawa. Sano went to visit Aikawa, who quickly apologized for calling him over so suddenly. Sano started to sweat when he saw Aikawa wrapped up in the snake-like lower body of Rin. Usually, Aikawa would tell him to just leave the key by the barbed wire at the foot of the mountain. But this time, Aikawa asked him to make sure the entrance was locked. Sano felt like he had been through something like this before. He asked what was going on. Aikawa said it was a sad story and asked if Sano would listen. Sano said yes. Then he asked Rin if chickens could eat bugs, and Rin quietly nodded. The two of them went into the house. Aikawa served some snacks and Sano thought they tasted good. Aikawa was happy to hear that and told Sano to take some home because he made too much. While Sano kept eating, he noticed how tired and stressed Aikawa looked. Aikawa sighed and started talking about how in recent years, there had been a lot of cases where women were being followed or watched. Sano agreed, saying he had heard about that too. Aikawa explained that usually men were the stalkers, but sometimes it was the other way around, a woman being the stalker. Sano asked if that was the reason Aikawa moved to the mountain. Aikawa said yes. Sano couldn't imagine how hard that must have been. Aikawa went on to say the woman was a coworker. People thought they were dating, but he didn't feel that way. She made a copy of his house key without telling him and went through his things. Sano thought that was really creepy. Because of that, Aikawa's work started to suffer. He talked to his boss, and when the boss spoke to the woman, she got angry. Things got so bad that the police had to get involved and Aikawa couldn't stay at the company anymore. Even though there was a restraining order, he still felt scared. Sano said that sounded worse than scary. Aikawa explained that since he made money from stocks, he decided to quit his job and, with some connections, bought the mountain to live in peace. Sano guessed the woman had followed him there. Aikawa flinched and said that wasn't the case, but he did see her while shopping in the next town over. Sano thought maybe it was just someone who looked like her, but Aikawa said he checked with his lawyer, and it turned out she had moved to the same area earlier that year. Sano nervously asked if she had come to their village. Aikawa said not yet, but it still scared him. Aikawa told Sano he would help take care of the mountain if Sano agreed to go shopping with him from now on. Sano didn't have much choice, so he agreed. Then he asked what would happen with Rin if she came along. Aikawa said Rin would just stay in the passenger seat. He said he felt pathetic. Sano said he understood and didn't think it was pathetic at all. Aikawa was surprised and laughed a little. He joked about falling in love with Sano. Feeling weird about it, Sano told him not to. Aikawa said he was only joking, and thanks to Sano, he felt much better now. After leaving, Sano decided to learn more about the woman's activities, but deep down he was just happy to have someone to go shopping with. Since Aikawa promised to help him take care of things, it worked out well for both of them. Still, when he thought about how his neighbors were going through similar problems, he realized that human relationships could be really confusing. When Sano got back home, he looked at his chickens. He gave them a hug and thanked them for staying with him. Yuma hugged him back, Tama pecked at him, and Pochi simply walked away. Later, when Sano visited Aikawa again, the snakes at her place asked the chickens if they brought any crayfish. Yuma just shook her head and Rin ended up feeling disappointed. The next day, Sano was shocked. His chickens had grown even bigger overnight. He shouted without thinking and the chickens repeated the same words he used. He quickly told them not to copy him. At first, he thought he had only imagined their growth, but now it was too obvious to ignore. Sano didn't know what to do. He tilted his head and asked the chickens if they were feeling any growing pains. They all tilted their heads at the same time. He explained that he was talking about pain in their bodies because their bones might be growing. But the chickens acted like they didn't hear anything. Sano could tell they were just messing with him. Still, they didn't seem to be in any pain or feeling sick. Even if he took them to a vet, the doctor probably wouldn't know how to help chickens with tails like reptiles. Their tails didn't look like lizard tails anymore. They looked more like small dinosaur tails with hard bones inside. Sano didn't know what to call them anymore. Were they feathered dinosaurs or just strange chickens with lizard tails? When he looked inside Yuma's mouth, he noticed her teeth had become sharper than ever. That's when he realized how scary his chickens had become. He began to wonder if other people had bought the same kind of chicks. If they were raised the same way, someone else would have noticed how strange they were by now. With people like Tatsuki, Rin, and Ten around, maybe there really were others raising creatures like these. It would be a weird story, but somehow there is a possibility that more people were living with beings that weren't quite normal. To clear his mind, Sano went to the fields to pull out some weeds. It was hard work, but it helped him stop thinking too much. While he was working, Old Man Yumoto called out and asked if he was coming over. Sano said he would visit after doing some shopping. Yumoto then invited him for lunch and Sano thanked him. Yumoto also told him not to be surprised if his chickens looked bigger again. He offered to share some vegetables too, but Sano noticed the old man was growing the same ones. Just then, Pochi showed up with a rabbit in his beak. The rabbit was still alive and trying to escape. Sano was shocked and quickly called out to Yumoto, asking what to do. Since rabbits in the area were a near-threatened species, Yumoto told him to set it free. After that, Sano got ready to leave and left the house to Pochi and Yuma. This time, he brought Tama along. Sano couldn't imagine living without chickens anymore. Later, Yumoto mentioned that Sano hadn't visited in 3 months. He reminded Sano that the rainy season was coming soon. He advised him to take care of the house and check the mountain roads because if the roads collapsed, it would be a big problem. Sano agreed. He had completely forgotten to prepare for the rainy season. Even though the roads were paved, they were close to the mountains, and heavy rain could cause landslides. He asked Yumoto what he should do to get ready. Yumoto said he should first check the dangerous spots. He remembered that a tree had fallen on the road a few years ago and blocked it. It took about 10 days to remove the tree using big machines. Yumoto said they could ask the town for help or hire a private company, but there wasn't one in their village because they couldn't afford to keep one. That made Sano realize living in the mountains was harder than he had thought. Sano shared that he bought his chickens during the spring festival. He asked if anyone else had bought the same colorful chicks at that time. Yumoto said he hadn't heard of any large chickens nearby, so he asked his wife. She said she hadn't heard anything either, but she did know about a poultry farm in the area. However, that farm didn't raise chicks. Sano asked if the chicks were not hatched in the village. Yumoto explained that it was too much work to hatch them there, so they just brought eggs from another place. Sano was surprised and looked at Tama, then jokingly asked if she was a foreigner. Yumoto's wife found his question funny. Yumoto then explained that most of the chicks sold at the festival were not good for meat and were usually males. But somehow, Sano got lucky and ended up with 2 females. Sano wondered if they would lay eggs. Yumoto said hens could start laying eggs as early as 4 months old, but most start around 5 months. So Sano expected his chickens to start laying eggs around July. Yumoto agreed, but asked if Sano had already given the chickens their vaccines. Sano said he at least had his tetanus shot. Yumoto laughed and explained he was talking about the chickens, not Sano himself. Sano was surprised to learn that chickens needed vaccines too. Yumoto told him that vaccines help chickens stay healthy and lay more eggs. Sano realized that made sense. Since he wanted his chickens to live a long time, he decided to get them vaccinated. Still, he was worried they might not get their shots. For now, he planned to ask someone who really knew how to take care of poultry. Sano went to a poultry farm after being referred by someone named Yumoto. There he met a man named Matsuyama who had neatly parted hair. Matsuyama thought Sano was a relative of Yumoto, but Sano said Yumoto was just a friend of a family member. Then Matsuyama noticed Yuma, the chicken Sano brought with him, and looked surprised. He asked if Yuma was really a chicken because he had never seen one so big before. He thought it might be a wild bird, but wild birds weren't usually white. He also asked if Yuma was calm or aggressive. Sano explained that Yuma was calm but could catch pit vipers. Matsuyama was shocked. He couldn't believe a chicken could catch and eat such a dangerous snake. He guessed that a chicken as big as Yuma could probably swallow one whole. When he asked what Yuma ate, Sano said he only fed them vegetable scraps. Matsuyama then led them to another area and told Yuma to eat anything nearby. When Yuma gave a small nod, Matsuyama was amazed. He couldn't believe a chicken could understand and respond like that. Sano had also brought some gifts with him, which Matsuyama's wife appreciated. Matsuyama still couldn't believe how large and healthy Yuma looked. He asked if Sano still gave the chickens vaccines. Sano said yes, because even healthy chickens could still get sick sometimes. Matsuyama explained that there were different ways to give vaccines. At their farm, they usually sprayed it or mixed it into the chicken's water. But since Sano's chickens were calm, he suggested using a 4-in-1 vaccine through injection. Sano thought Yuma would stay calm, but his other 2 chickens might kick him if they got scared by the needles. If that happened, Matsuyama recommended using a nasal spray and letting them walk around freely. He didn't think mixing the vaccine with water would work well for Sano's chickens. For now, Matsuyama offered to talk to a vet and get more advice. It would cost some money, but it was important to keep the chickens strong and healthy. Later, Matsuyama showed Sano their chicken coop. Sano asked if it was okay to go inside, and Matsuyama said it was fine as long as he used proper disinfectant. After seeing the farm, Sano realized how important it was to keep things clean when raising animals. He felt inspired to improve his own chicken's living space. Before leaving, Sano asked about the colorful chicks sold at the spring festival. Matsuyama said those were usually bought from outside sources by vendors and were often male chicks not raised for meat. Sano then wondered what that meant for his own chickens, Tama and Yuma. Before Sano left, Matsuyama promised to call him after speaking with the vet. Sano thanked him for the help. As Sano drove back home, he wondered how Tatsuki was doing at Miya's place, and how Rin and Ten were doing at Aikawa's. He guessed they hadn't been taken to the vet either. For now, he needed to learn from Aikawa how to take care of the mountain before the rainy season came. He sent Aikawa a message, and Aikawa told him to come over so he could show him some things like nets and fences. Sano wanted to learn more, so he agreed to visit. He felt happy to have someone experienced he could count on. Earlier, Sano had eaten with Matsuyama and his wife while they talked. They served steamed chicken. Tama, his pet, stared at him while he happily ate, clearly not impressed. Back in the present, while on his way to Aikawa's place, Sano noticed some nets placed beside the road. He could tell that Aikawa was very careful about his work. When he arrived, he greeted the snakes. They slithered over and Tama flapped her wings as if greeting them too. Then 10 pushed the doorbell and Aikawa came out. Sano thanked him before they started. Aikawa brought out some boiled edamame. Sano ate some and thought they tasted great. Aikawa smiled and told him to eat more. Then they got to the main topic, how to stop landslides. Aikawa explained that he used nets and plastic fences. He showed Sano a sample and said it was something he could install by himself. These could help stop some of the soil from sliding down. Still, Aikawa reminded him that it was important to check and maintain the mountain often. But Aikawa also shared something else. He said he might just be lucky, but ever since he started raising Rin and Ten, he hadn't had any serious problems with his mountain. Sano asked what he meant. Aikawa said that last year there were many typhoons and heavy rains. Sano remembered hearing about fallen trees in different places, but Aikawa said that his area wasn't hit hard at all. If it had only happened once or twice, he might have thought it was just luck. But last year, there were many times when evacuation orders were given. Still, his mountain stayed safe. Sano started to worry more about his own mountain and felt he needed to take better care of it. Aikawa said he wasn't sure if it was just luck, but he had been wondering if Rin and Ten had something to do with it. Sano hoped that was true. After that, Aikawa walked Sano around and showed him how he set up the nets and fences. Sano wrote down everything important. He knew he had to prepare quickly before the rainy season started. When Sano got back home, he looked through his checklist. The things he had ordered online were, as usual, set to arrive at Yumoto's house. Aikawa also had his packages delivered near the base of the mountain. It made sense to have important things sent straight to the mountain area. Sano thought maybe it was time for him to do the same, but he still felt unsure about letting others know his address. He realized he was still more hurt than he had thought. Back when he was engaged and planning to get married, everyone in his hometown already knew about it. So when his fiancée left him, he couldn't stand the way people looked at him. Sano had truly loved her. He dreamed of having a family and raising a child with her. But then, she suddenly told him she wanted to study abroad before the wedding and never came back. She said her world felt too small and that she wanted to go to a university in another country instead of getting married. To Sano, her reason felt unfair. But she sent him a large amount of money, maybe to make up for everything or to ask him to forget. They had met while working at the same company and ended up dating. After the breakup, Sano felt too uncomfortable to stay at work. So without thinking too much, he bought a mountain. He spoke out loud saying he had enough of everything. His chickens repeated the words back to him. That made him smile. He felt thankful to them for joining in, even if they didn't really understand. He hugged them and quietly said thank you. That night, after turning off the lights, Sano felt truly grateful for his chickens. He knew that Maya and Aikawa were also going through their own struggles, but maybe not as deeply as him. Still, he understood that his pain was something only he could carry. Before falling asleep, he hoped that one day all their wounds, his, Mia's, and Aikawa's, would heal. He quietly wished for that as he drifted off to sleep. Sano had sent a message to someone, asking how they were doing since the rainy season was coming soon. Just a few days earlier, he had seen Mrs. Yamanaka. She asked him about Mia. He told her that he talked to Maya once in a while. Mrs. Yamanaka said she hoped Sano would keep an eye on Mia. He figured she was worried too, and all he could do was give a small smile. To be honest, Sano didn't really want to get involved with someone Mia's age. If Maya asked for help herself, he would try to help. But if it was only other people asking, he didn't think there was much he could do. Still, because of Mia's ex-boyfriend, he had been quietly watching over things. People used to live up in the mountains too. But by the time Sano moved there, only 2 families had stayed, and they had already moved down to the village 5 years earlier. The old houses had been cleared out. However, graves still remained. The people who had lived in the mountains for generations were buried there, since their remains couldn't be moved. Relatives would usually tell Sano before they visited. So far, only the former barber had come. Maybe more visitors would show up in the fall, or maybe no one would. Sano had visited one of the graves. He placed some flowers and said a short prayer. As usual, his chickens were with him. They were full of energy, and Sano hoped some of that energy could rub off on him. Just then, Pochi showed up with another pit viper in his beak. Sano told him to just eat it. While the chickens ate the snake, Sano checked his phone. He saw that Mia had replied to his message. She said she was doing well because of him and that her peas had grown a lot. She also invited him over for a meal. Sano was shocked. He didn't know what to say. He believed Mia didn't mean anything special by the invitation. She probably just felt lonely. So he simply replied that he would visit when it was convenient for her. He thought Mia was just being polite, but then Maya quickly replied again and asked him to come in 2 or 3 days. Sano was surprised. He looked at his chickens and asked them what he should do about Mia. Yuma came to stand by him, while Pochi and Tama just sighed and shook their heads. Sano promised to make them cry later. He knew Yuma was always kind, but it wasn't like Pochi and Tama were mean. Each chicken had its own personality and job. Still, he wished they would be more supportive during moments like this. A few days later, Sano told Pochi to watch over the house because he was going to Mia's place. Just then, his phone rang. It was a message from Aikawa. He said he had found some good sake and invited Sano to come drink with him. Aikawa also told him he could stay the night. Sano guessed Aikawa was feeling a little lonely too. He had planned to come back from Mia's mountain before sunset, but having more time seemed like a better idea. So he asked Aikawa if he could visit the next day instead. Aikawa said okay. Later on, Mia saw a small truck she recognized coming toward her house. It was Sano. He greeted her and offered to help carry the vegetables she had picked. Mia thanked him and said she had ended up harvesting more than she expected. She told Sano he could take some vegetables home if he wanted. Sano said yes and thanked her for being kind. Then, he asked where Tatsuki was. Mia said she was probably resting in the shade near the house. Sano decided to go say hi to Tatsuki and the chickens. He greeted them like he always did and asked if his chickens could eat the bugs in the area. Tatsuki gave a small nod as usual. Just after that, Sano told his chickens to go ahead and start looking for bugs. Tama, one of the chickens, walked up behind Tatsuki and began pecking at her back. Sano was surprised, but Mia saw that Tama was actually picking off bugs stuck to Tatsuki's back. Mia said it reminded her of the birds that help crocodiles by eating bugs off them. Sano was a little unsure at first, but since Mia was smiling and enjoying it, he figured it was okay. When they reached the porch, Sano set down the vegetables. Mia said she would make some tea, but Sano told her she didn't have to. Still, Mia came back with a cup of tea and said she would start preparing the meal. She asked Sano to wait for a bit. While he waited, Sano relaxed and enjoyed the quiet feeling of the mountains. He watched Tama walk around and Yuma sit next to him. Tatsuki also began to move around. Sano told Yuma to go play if he wanted, but Yuma just snuggled into Sano's arms and stayed with him. Soon, Mia returned with a plate of food. Sano was amazed when he saw it. Mia said she had cooked too much again. Sano looked at the dish and thought it was a lot of rice and beans, but it tasted really good. Sano asked Maya how she was taking care of the mountain. Mia said she was paying a fee so the villagers could help manage it. Sano thought it must have been hard for her to handle everything by herself. Then he asked if Tatsuki had gotten any vaccines, but Mia didn't think there were any made for big lizards. Sano said vaccines were more common for dogs and cats. Mia wasn't sure if lizards had them, but since she wanted Tatsuki to stay with her forever, she thought she might look into it. Sano asked how things had been for her lately. Mia said nothing much had changed. Since Golden Week, she hadn't heard anything from her ex-boyfriend who used to spy on her, so she felt a bit more at ease. She said sorry for causing trouble back then. Sano told her it was fine. They had helped each other when things were tough. Mia then lowered her head and, to his surprise, asked if Sano could check on her from time to time. Sano wasn't sure what she really meant by that. Still, he told her she could call him anytime and he would come if he wasn't busy. Mia thanked him. Then things got quiet between them. It felt a little awkward. Sano thought Mia might have been feeling really lonely, just like Aikawa. He tried not to think too hard about it, guessing there wasn't any hidden reason behind her words. Looking at all the food he was bringing home, Sano thought Mia might have gone a little overboard. Even so, the food was delicious, so he didn't mind. When Sano got back home, he started thinking about his visit to Aikawa's place. What really stayed in his mind was the strange change in Rin. He wanted to understand what was going on between Aikawa and Rin. He couldn't stop worrying about why Rin's upper body had become more human. It scared him so much that he still hadn't asked them about it. The next day, Tama completely ignored Sano. He noticed she stayed behind again, but this time he said they were spending the night at Aikawa's place. Tama didn't say anything. Sano felt nervous about leaving one chicken alone overnight. He asked Tama to come with them, but she just walked away. He tried again, but Pochi pecked him on the butt. Sano was still worried, but since Pochi seemed okay with it, he let it go. He couldn't catch Tama anyway. When he first started raising them, he got too confident and tried chasing Tama. He ended up getting kicked in the face. Before leaving, Sano told Tama that the house was unlocked and she could sleep inside if she wanted. Then he drove off in his small truck, carrying buckets filled with crayfish. When he got to Aikawa's place, Rin and Ten came out to meet them. Sano said hello and asked if the chickens could eat the bugs around the area. The two snakes didn't mind. Rin's reaction was expected, but Sano was surprised that Ten could even speak clearly. Sano showed them the 2 buckets of crayfish as gifts. The snakes cuddled up to him, calling him kind and awesome. Sano said it was actually his chickens who caught the crayfish. Then Aikawa came out to say hello. He was surprised to see fresh crayfish again. He thanked Pochi and Tama and told them to make themselves at home. Sano noticed how Aikawa treated his chickens with real respect. It even started to feel like the chickens weren't his pets anymore. It felt more like they were the ones taking care of him. After a few dishes were served, Sano said sorry for not bringing anything. Aikawa said the crayfish were already more than enough, especially since Rin and Ten looked happy. Sano felt thankful to eat meat, but then he realized it was actually enoki mushrooms. Aikawa explained that he had bought an enoki mushroom kit the year before and had been growing them at home. Sano was surprised that kits like that were sold and thought it was cool how Aikawa tried different things. Then Aikawa brought out the alcohol he had talked about earlier. Sano noticed it was a Chinese drink and asked if Aikawa drank it often. Aikawa said it was a gift from someone who had sold him the mountain. It was a souvenir from China called Mao Tai liquor. He said it was very strong, so it was better to drink it with ice or water. Sano wondered if it was like Shaoxing wine, but Aikawa said it was different. As the meal went on, Sano said the fried chicken tasted really good. But then both of them suddenly stopped and looked at Pochi and Yuma. Aikawa apologized for not thinking about it. Sano told him it was okay since he had just visited a poultry farm recently and tried many chicken dishes. When Aikawa asked about the farm, Sano said it seemed very professional. He also mentioned that the chickens there got vaccinated. This made Aikawa wonder if reptiles could get vaccines too. Even if they could, he wasn't sure there were any for his large snakes. Sano then asked how long Rin had looked human. Aikawa said it had been about a year after he started taking care of her. She turned into that form and stayed that way. Sano remembered Aikawa saying it happened all of a sudden, but he still wondered if something caused the change. He worried that Yuma might suddenly turn into a pretty girl one day, but he didn't really believe that would happen. Aikawa said he had thought a lot about Rin's change, but he still didn't know what made it happen. About a year after Aikawa started taking care of his snakes, he noticed they had grown to around 2 meters long. Ten didn't ride in the car very often, but Aikawa usually took Rin along when he went for a drive. One day they ended up in a nearby town. Because of Aikawa's appearance, some women started flirting with him. This reminded him of a scary time in the past when he had been followed around by his stalker, so he quickly ran back to his small truck. But even after that, the women didn't leave him alone and kept coming closer. As Aikawa began to panic, not knowing what to do, Rin suddenly stuck her head out of the truck's passenger seat. The women saw the large snake and ran away, frightened. Aikawa felt relieved and hugged Rin. After he calmed down, he drove back to the mountains. That night, Aikawa admitted he felt embarrassed. He shared his thoughts with Rin and Ten, saying that if a woman had been sitting in the passenger seat, maybe those people wouldn't have bothered him. He wondered what he should do next. The next morning, he woke up and was shocked to see a woman lying beside him. She had taken Rin's place. He turned pale, confused about when he had brought someone home. Later, when Sano asked about it, Aikawa said he had drunk a lot that night and guessed he had just been too confused to remember things clearly. When he tried to leave, he looked at the lower half of the woman's body and realized something was strange. He didn't understand what was happening at first. Sano joked that if he hadn't seen Rin up close, he would have thought her snake body was made with special effects. Aikawa then said that when he saw Ten next to him and looked more closely at the woman, he noticed her eyes looked like a snake's. That's when he realized the woman was actually Rin. Sano remembered how, when they first met, he also thought Rin had very snake-like features. Sano started to feel a little drunk. Aikawa said he had already shared his own story and now wanted to know why Sano had bought the mountain. Sano said he didn't have a big or dramatic reason like Aikawa. Still, he shared that he used to be engaged, but things didn't work out and he got tired of everything. Aikawa asked what happened. Sano stayed quiet for a while, then he explained that they had been engaged, picked a wedding date, and even booked a venue. But then his ex said she wanted to study abroad. Sano said he would have been okay if it was just for a short time, like a month. But then Sano started to cry. He couldn't hold back his feelings anymore. Aikawa saw how much pain he was in and told him it was enough and said sorry. But Sano kept going. He said his ex never came back. She decided to go to a university overseas and told him to forget about their marriage. Sano sat there wondering why he was crying. Was it because the person he planned to marry was gone? Was it because he felt lonely or angry? He didn't know. Aikawa told him again that it was okay to stop. Sano said that compared to people who go through stalking or abuse, his story wasn't that bad. Still, he couldn't help but ask, why did this happen to him? He thought that maybe his ex should have just gone to study abroad earlier and not gotten involved with him at all. He didn't understand the timing. It made him feel sad and useless, knowing she chose her dreams over building a life with him. He knew it was too late to think about being chosen or not. It was okay for her to chase her dreams, but he wished she hadn't pulled him into it first. Aikawa gave him some water and told him to drink. Sano wiped his tears and took a big gulp. That made sense. If he kept drinking alcohol and crying like that, he'd get dehydrated. The next morning, Sano apologized to Aikawa while bowing on the floor. Aikawa was too shocked to speak, not because of the sudden apology, but because Pochi was casually sitting on Sano's back. Aikawa told Sano to lift his head since he had also drunk too much. He also told Pochi to get off. Sano's eyes were filled with tears. He tried to say something but then stopped. Aikawa said he wanted to be friends with Sano too, especially since Sano was the only one who knew about Rin and Ten. Sano scratched his head and apologized for acting like a mess, but Aikawa said he hadn't done anything wrong. Sano thanked him. Then Aikawa joked that Sano could fall for him, but Sano quickly said no. Aikawa laughed and said he was just kidding. He was happy that Sano was acting like himself again and said they should keep getting along. Sano agreed. Just then, Pochi tried to step on Sano's head this time. Aikawa laughed at the scene and Yuma stepped in to stop Pochi from playing tricks. Sano was relieved that even Yuma understood that stepping on someone's head was disrespectful. Suddenly, Sano's phone rang. It was Mr. Matsuyama. Sano answered and found out the vet was coming the day after tomorrow. He thanked him and said he would definitely visit. Now Sano could finally find out if there were vaccines for reptiles or not. Still, he wondered, if creatures like Tatsuki, who was almost 2 meters long, or a snake with a woman's upper body needed a shot, could they even get one? Sano imagined it would look like a monster convention. He pictured news reporters showing up for interviews. Maybe even the chickens would get interviewed. But Sano didn't like that idea. He didn't want his chickens turned into a show. He also thought about what gift he should bring to the Matsuyamas. Aikawa suggested a basket of fruits. He said men might not care, but women and kids would probably enjoy it. The next day, the two went out to shop. While they were buying things, Sano said that Aikawa paid close attention to everything. Aikawa explained that living alone in the mountains meant he had a lot to do, but most of the time, it was just him. Because of that, his mind often got bored and started thinking too much. But it also helped him come up with new ideas. Sano wished he had a mind like Aikawa's, free to wander and imagine things. As they walked back to their trucks, they noticed Rin and Yuma peeking out from the passenger seats and facing each other. It looked like the two girls were having a conversation. Aikawa said it was nice to see girls getting along. Sano agreed and thought it was a beautiful thing when people got along well. Sano then gave Aikawa some sweets as a thank you gift for always being thoughtful. Aikawa said Sano didn't have to, but he guessed Rin would enjoy the treats. That made Sano realize that girls really liked sweets. He also thought sweets tasted good, but he wasn't sure if the animals could taste them too. One time, he gave some cherries to his chickens and they ate them all. But he had heard that the seeds weren't good for them, so he made sure to gather all the seeds afterward. When he tried to tell the chickens not to eat the seeds, they still ate the cherries, noticed the seeds while chewing, and somehow started spitting them out everywhere, like seed cannons. The day finally came to visit the chicken farm. Before getting their vaccines, the chickens needed to be checked by a vet. The main plan for the day was the checkup, but something unexpected happened. Pochi ran away. While Sano was getting the truck ready, Pochi took off toward the thick trees. Sano hadn't told the chickens about the vaccination, so he wondered if Pochi just sensed it somehow. He called for Pochi to come back so they could leave together, but Pochi stayed hidden behind a tree. Sano turned to Tama and Yuma and asked them to help, but they said they couldn't do anything. Sano stood there confused. Did they really just say that and act like they didn't care? The two chickens just acted like they didn't know what was going on. For now, Sano decided to let Pochi stay since it was only a checkup. He told Pochi to look after the house and said he would definitely bring him along next time. He also planned to ask if there was a way to give the vaccine without using needles. Later, at the chicken farm, Mrs. Matsuyama greeted Sano with a warm welcome. Sano gave her some small gifts. She smiled and said he didn't have to go through the trouble, but she looked happy anyway. Sano wanted to thank Aikawa too. Then Mr. Matsuyama showed up with the vet. Sano thanked the vet for coming on such short notice. Mr. Matsuyama said it wasn't a problem because he was also curious about the chickens. The vet looked nervous when he saw the chickens and said they were quite big. Mr. Matsuyama introduced him as Dr. Komodo, a veterinarian. He also introduced Sano as the owner of the large chickens. Dr. Komodo explained that he was a vet from a nearby city. He said he had heard there were 3 chickens, but he only saw 2. Sano apologized and explained that one of them seemed to sense something and didn't come. Dr. Komodo then realized the chickens were free range, which made sense because of how big they were. He asked Mr. Matsuyama if it was okay to take some measurements and do a simple checkup at his house. Mr. Matsuyama said it was no problem at all. Inside the house, Dr. Komodo measured the chickens' height and weight. He wondered if they were the same kind of breed as Brahmas, a large breed of chicken usually found in India. He realized they were also heavy because of their tails. When he looked closely, the tails seemed reptile-like, and he started wondering if they were similar to dinosaurs. He also noticed their sharp teeth and was surprised by how unusual they looked. He hadn't seen anything like them before and thought he could even write a paper about them. He finished the checkup quickly and said the chickens were well behaved. Meanwhile, Sano started sweating as he realized that the chickens were growing bigger again. Dr. Komodo said they looked like chickens but reminded him more of feathered dinosaurs. He explained that he could give them the same vaccines used for regular chickens, but if anything went wrong, it would be Sano's responsibility. Sano mentioned something about vaccines that go in drinking water. But Dr. Komodo said that just because the chickens could drink it didn't mean it was safe. It was a live vaccine, and even inactivated ones weren't always completely safe either. He said the best option was to give the chickens a 4-in-1 shot once and then watch how they reacted. It might help keep them from getting sick, but the vaccines were made for normal chickens, not special ones like these. Sano wondered if that would really work. He said he'd talk it over with the chickens, and also with Pochi. He now understood that the chickens could understand human speech. If vaccines could help them stay healthy, it seemed like a good idea. He planned to visit Dr. Komodo's clinic again soon. Later that day, Sano was treated to some chicken dishes. The freshly cooked food was delicious, though he felt like Tama and Yuma were staring at him a little too much. Still, the food was so tasty that he decided to ignore them. And just like that, the rainy season had begun. The rainy season was coming soon, so Sano got a dehumidifier ready. He saw it as something very useful nowadays. He couldn't imagine how people in the past handled all the humidity, but Aikawa said that they used charcoal. In fact, Aikawa had fixed an old charcoal kiln and started making his own charcoal. Since there were plenty of materials nearby, it worked out well for him. Later, Sano spoke with the former village head and found out there was an old charcoal kiln up in his own mountain area. It was a bit damaged, but the old man named Yumoto fixed it. Now Sano could make charcoal too. He shared a good amount with Yumoto and some neighbors, and they were really happy to receive it. Sano then asked Aikawa if there were other ways to deal with humidity besides using charcoal. Aikawa said cutting down trees and pulling weeds around the house helped a lot. When Sano heard that, he got a little worried. He had planted white clover around his house because it made great chicken feed. It was strong and easy to grow. You just had to stick a piece into the ground and it would take root. Sano even moved some from a field to plant near his home. He thought it would be nice to have flowers around the house like something out of a storybook. His chickens, Tama and Yuma, seemed to like it too. They thought the white clover was tasty. He didn't plant it right at the entrance, but it was still close enough that they could snack on it easily. At first, Tama pecked at him, maybe confused about what he was doing. Sano told her he was planting something for them and asked her not to get in the way. She walked off, pouting. He also asked her to stop pecking him for at least a week. This all happened near the end of April. One day, just to pass the time, Sano tried making a flower crown using the white clover. Yuma had once gotten a flower crown from some kids who stopped by the general store, and she looked so cute that Sano wanted to try making one too. But when he wore it himself, Tama and Pochi gave him strange looks. So instead he gave the crown to Yuma. He had trouble making it and apologized when he placed it on her head. Yuma didn't see why he was sorry. Sano called her cute and she happily repeated the word as she walked away. She was so adorable that Sano felt like he wanted to take care of her forever. Even though Sano loved the white clover, he knew it might cause the house to take in too much moisture, especially since the house was mostly made of wood. That meant he might have to move the plants farther away from the house. It made him a little sad, but it also meant moving the chicken's food source to another spot. He needed to do it before the rainy season began. While Tama and Pochi were out walking around the area, Sano started replanting the clover in a different field. However, this is a problem with Tama, who looked surprised when she saw Sano digging up the white clovers. Sano told her he was moving the plants because they were making the house too damp. But Tama didn't believe him and kept getting mad. Sano tried to explain, but Tama began pecking him over and over again. So while Sano was trying to move the white clovers and avoid Tama's pecks at the same time, his muscles got sore the next day. Tama noticed he was in pain and gave him even more pecks. Meanwhile, Pochi also took a few bites of the white clovers, but he didn't seem to care about the move. Before the rainy season started, Sano had already pulled out the clovers and weeds, hoping it would help keep things less humid. But since moving everything was hard work, he left some in planters near the house. If the chickens ate them later, Sano could just grab more from the field. One day, while Pochi was walking around the area, he found a snake. It wasn't the usual pit viper, but he still caught it anyway. When it rained, there wasn't much to do, so Sano stayed inside most of the time. Even when it was just a light drizzle, the chickens would walk around, and Sano followed them down to the river. He could see the water level going up, but it was still clear compared to the muddy water downstream, which looked like coffee because of the soil. During the rainy season, mold grew easily in the house, so Sano had to check often. He kept a dehumidifier running in the tatami room, and even though he wasn't doing much else, wiping the moisture still felt like hard work. Later, Sano checked his fridge and saw he was out of meat. He had gotten a lot of vegetables as thanks for his charcoal, but he needed meat to keep up his energy. There weren't any eggs either. He looked at Yuma and realized it was still too early for his chickens to lay eggs. And with Pochi around, the hens would probably lay fertilized eggs, which Sano didn't want to eat. In the end, he decided to go shopping, and Yuma said she wanted to come along. After the rainy season started, the pit vipers that had been hiding started coming out again. Not only that, Pochi recently caught a tiger keelback, a type of snake that's both poisonous and toxic. When Sano gave the okay, Pochi ate it right away and didn't leave anything behind. Sano got worried for a moment because the snake was poisonous, but it was already too late. Pochi had eaten the whole thing. Sano watched him closely for a while, but the chicken was completely fine. Now Sano started to wonder what kind of chickens he was even raising. Later on, Sano called Old Man Yumoto to talk about the new group of pit vipers. Yumoto told him to come over because a package had just arrived. He also said he needed to talk to the chickens, and asked Sano to bring all of them. When Sano asked what the talk was about, Yumoto didn't explain much but promised it wasn't anything bad. Sano said he wouldn't go if it was about being on TV, but Yumoto said it wasn't that at all. He said he couldn't talk to just one of them, and needed to meet all 3 chickens. After their patrol, the chickens came back to Sano. He told them that Yumoto wanted to talk to them. Pochi clucked in agreement, just like always. She could be counted on. Sano asked about Tama. She only turned her head, and Sano understood that she didn't want to go. Then Sano wondered out loud what Yumoto's talk was about and hoped it would be something fun. Tama gave him a sharp look, like she was annoyed he hadn't even asked for more details. After that, Sano went to Old Man Yumoto's house. Yumoto's wife was happy to see Pochi and Yuma. She gave them a hug and noticed they were soaked from the rain. She handed them some towels and showed Sano the packages that had been delivered for him. Sano had brought some small gifts like he always did. Yumoto's wife was happy, but also felt a little bad that Sano kept spending money. Sano said it was just his way of saying thank you for their kindness. He thought he couldn't thank Aikawa enough for helping him. Trying to shake off her guilt, Yumoto's wife went outside to give some vegetable scraps to the chickens. Soon, Yumoto came out and thanked the chickens for keeping pit vipers away. He also reminded Sano that the snakes needed to soak in jars for at least 6 months, or they wouldn't rest properly. The bottles filled with pit vipers were starting to pile up, and Sano felt nervous just thinking about what it would look like a year from now. Later, the 2 men sat down in a room with tatami mats. Yumoto offered Sano some alcohol since he was staying the night, but Sano said he planned to leave in the morning. He joked that if he drank and drove, he might end up going off a cliff. The mountain roads were narrow and one wrong move could be dangerous. He felt like someone should fix those roads soon. Yumoto agreed, if you die, it's over. Sano then asked what Yumoto wanted to talk to the chickens about. Yumoto explained that most people in the village were farmers, and there were many rice fields around. Even though they lived in the mountains and shared the land with many animals, this year there were more tiger keelback snakes than usual. These snakes were normally shy and didn't bite people, but their venom was said to be even stronger than pit vipers. Yumoto shared that 2 people had already been bitten. One of them even had to go to the hospital. The snakes were now showing up in the fields, and that made farming harder. Sano agreed that it was a big problem. He told Yumoto that Pochi had even caught one recently. Yumoto was surprised. He said that 1 or 2 snakes weren't usually a big deal, but now they were being seen every day. That was serious. Sano asked how the chickens were connected to all this. Yumoto explained that if the number of snakes went up, the number of frogs would go down. He then asked Sano what would happen if there were fewer frogs. Sano answered that the number of insects would rise. Yumoto nodded. That would throw off the balance of nature. Sano finally understood what Yumoto wanted from the chickens. Yumoto then explained the situation to Pochi and Yuma. He said the snake problem was affecting everyone. Pochi seemed excited and ready to help. Yumoto was happy that they understood. But Sano noticed Pochi tapping his feet in excitement. Sano realized what he was thinking, hugged him, and said it wouldn't be today. They would come back another time. Pochi gently pecked him in response. Yumoto told them he would call when it was time for the chickens to go out and help. Even after that, Pochi kept pecking Sano, clearly eager to go hunting right away. After getting back home, Sano called Aikawa to talk about something strange happening in the village. He said there were more tiger keelback snakes than usual, and his chickens were being used to handle them. He asked Aikawa if he knew why the number of snakes had suddenly gone up. Aikawa asked if Sano had seen the news. He explained that it might be connected to snakes and pests. There was a large house in a nearby town just past the mountain. The man who lived there worked in pest control, but he had passed away the year before. When his son came to clean the house, he found out that his father had been keeping many snakes, and they were all venomous. Not knowing what to do with them, the son released the snakes into the nearby mountains. He later told a pet shop owner that was close to him that he didn't realize the snakes were dangerous when he let them go. This made Sano think that these snakes could also be the reason why there were more pit vipers in his area. Aikawa agreed that it was possible since the son had released the snakes in places with few people. It was also confirmed that some of the snakes were tiger keelbacks, which might explain why the village was seeing more of them. Sano was surprised and wondered if the villagers knew. Aikawa said that it was not a big news story, so most people probably didn't hear about it. The story had only been covered once in the news, and since it didn't get much attention, it was mostly forgotten. Still, it was a serious matter that shouldn't be ignored. Aikawa also said that Rin had caught another type of pit viper called a habu. Sano was shocked because habu snakes are usually found in Okinawa and are much more poisonous than the others. Sano now saw how dangerous the situation was. He decided to tell Yumoto because someone could get badly hurt if nothing was done. Through the phone, he asked Yumoto if he had heard the news, but he hadn't. Yumoto said that if it were only tiger keelbacks, it might be okay, but habu snakes were a real problem. He said he might have to call professionals, but for now, he asked the chickens to be ready just in case. He also asked to see the habu that was caught on the western mountain, to make sure it wasn't a mistake. Sano said he would let Aikawa know, then ended the call. Sano sighed, feeling a bit overwhelmed by everything that was going on. Just then, Yuma snuggled beside him, and it made him feel a little better. He realized that animals really could help people feel calm. He asked if he could talk with Yuma for a while. Yuma moved closer to him and Sano thanked her. Yuma copied his words. Tama and Pochi quietly watched them. Sano called Mia to tell her about what had happened recently. Mia was shocked to hear that a habu snake had been seen in the mountains. He knew Tatsuki could protect Mia, but Sano still thought it was best to let her know. While he tried to explain the situation, Mia started panicking loudly on the phone. Just then, Yuma grabbed Sano's phone with her beak and ran off. The phone fell, and Sano kept asking her to give it back because he was worried the screen would break. He asked Yuma why she did that, but when he picked up the phone, it wasn't broken at all. Sano scolded Yuma for messing with his phone, but Yuma just cuddled up to him. Sano said he was really mad, but she kept snuggling. Since she was cute, he simply warned her not to do it again. He told her he had been talking to Mia and asked her not to interrupt again. Sano then called Mia back and apologized for the call being cut. Mia also said sorry because she realized she had been the one panicking. She said she couldn't hear anyone else when she got nervous. Then she asked if there was a chance habu snakes could be released in her area too. Sano said it was only a guess, but since one had already shown up in the western area, he told her to be careful. Mia was still worried because habu snakes didn't normally show up around there. Sano wondered if Tatsuki could deal with it if he described the snake. Mia said yes. Then Sano told her that someone from the western area would come with him to Yumoto's place, and he asked Mia to come too. Mia said she would go. Next, Sano called Aikawa and asked him to show the habu snake he caught to Mia's giant lizard. Aikawa said he would come with Rin. He also warned Sano that his snake sometimes got jealous when a woman got too close. It might be awkward for Mia, but they couldn't do much about it. Rin kept protecting Aikawa like always, especially after the stalker incident. Aikawa might have developed a fear of women his age. He had once said that he never wanted to work in public again. Then Sano called Yumoto and told him that Mia was coming too. Yumoto was still surprised that Aikawa had caught a habu snake. Sano explained that Aikawa's giant snake had caught it. Yumoto thought the snake must be smart, like Sano's chickens, and said he wanted to see it. Sano told him the snake was 3 meters long and too big to bring over. Yumoto then asked Sano to get Aikawa's permission for him to visit the western mountain. He really wanted to see how big the snake was. Sano said he would tell Aikawa about the request, but told Yumoto to ask him directly the next day. Sano made a quick call to Aikawa and told him how interested Yumoto was in seeing Ten, the giant snake. He just wanted Aikawa to know in case Yumoto brought it up. After all those calls, Sano realized he had been spending a lot of time on the phone lately. Just then, the door started banging loudly. Sano realized that Tama had come back from patrol and somehow locked the door. He told her to stop banging or she might break it, but the other chickens encouraged her to break the door anyway. The next day, Sano left, and Tama watched him drive off in the small truck. Sano had thought about putting a camera on Tama to check on her while he was gone, but he knew she wouldn't like that. As usual, Pochi and Yuma went with him. When they arrived at Yumoto's place, Yumoto's wife greeted them. She said she had been picking mugwort and asked for Sano's help. Sano joined her in picking the plants while the chickens stayed alert and watched the area. Yumoto's wife was happy for the help, especially since she had been scared of the poisonous snakes around. During times like this, the chickens helped protect the area not just from snakes, but also from pests and other wild animals. Aikawa showed up and greeted everyone. It was the first time Yumoto's wife saw him, and she said he looked nice. Aikawa noticed they were gathering mugwort and asked if it was still good to eat. Yumoto's wife said she planned to make tempura, and Aikawa thought that sounded tasty. Since it started to drizzle, they all went inside the house. Sano then saw Aikawa's light truck and greeted Rin, who was sitting inside. She greeted him back. A breeze from the window moved her hair, and Sano thought she looked very beautiful. He also found her soft, stuttering voice charming. Somehow Yuma seemed to notice Sano's thoughts and gave him a peck on the back. Sano didn't understand why, since Yuma almost never did that. Later, Aikawa brought out a large container with a habu snake inside. It was about 1 meter long. He also brought some gifts along with Sano. Soon, old man Yumoto came out to meet them and looked worried when he saw the big snake. Then, a nearby vehicle stopped, and Aikawa began to look nervous. Sano told him not to worry. Mia entered the house and was surprised to see a man hiding behind Sano, shaking with fear. Sano found it odd that someone taller than him was hiding like that. He introduced Maya and Aikawa to each other. Maya greeted awkwardly and Aikawa replied nervously. Just then, Tatsuki crawled out of Miya's light truck. Sano greeted her and she gave him a small nod before turning to look at Rin, who was sitting in Aikawa's truck. Rin stared back at her. With Tatsuki now there too, Sano looked around at everyone and realized something strange. It felt like a gathering of monsters. For some reason, he started to get a bad feeling. Everyone sat down in the tatami room to eat and talk. Sano was surprised to see that bamboo shoots were still in season. He then noticed Miya giving the men a suspicious look. Sano knew Maya had been in an abusive relationship before, but she didn't seem to hate men in general. On the other hand, Aikawa had his own problems when it came to women. Outside, Pochi was on patrol, Yuma was munching on leftover vegetables, and Tatsuki was guarding the front door. After a moment of silence, Yumoto confirmed that the snake Aikawa had brought was indeed a habu, a venomous type. The room went quiet and Miya looked like she was about to panic. Yumoto couldn't believe that the son of a pest control expert made things worse after all the hard work his father had done. He asked if they could keep the habu as proof and Aikawa quickly agreed. The snake looked too fat to have been a pet, so Aikawa assumed it must have been kept for some other reason. Yumoto explained that keeping a venomous snake required a permit. He wondered if the previous owner had gotten one through work connections. He said it was a hassle and Sano agreed with him. Sano also thought the owner might have kept other dangerous snakes. Apparently, the health department didn't help with catching them. If someone reported it to the police, usually only one officer would show up, so it was better if the villagers handled the problem themselves. But if a crime was involved, the police would take over. Suddenly the door opened and Pochi came in proudly with a tiger keelback snake in his beak. Yumoto and his wife praised him for catching it. Since the snake was too big to fit in a plastic bottle, Yumoto decided to take care of it right away. He pulled out a large knife and grabbed the snake, saying they'd be having tempura for dinner. The chickens, who only knew how to swallow snakes whole, watched closely to see how a human would prepare one. They saw Yumoto throw away the snake's head as the first step. After they finished eating, Aikawa thanked everyone and said he needed to leave since Rin had been waiting for a long time. Yumoto's wife agreed and gave him an extra meal to bring to Rin as a gift. Yumoto said he was curious about the giant snake Aikawa kept. Aikawa said the snake didn't usually stay near the house and wasn't sure if he could show it. Yumoto asked if it was okay to let the snake roam around freely. Aikawa explained that it was fine because his property was big and the snake stayed nearby. He promised to tell Yumoto ahead of time if he planned to show it. Yumoto said he would visit to see the snake after the rainy season and asked if Sano wanted to come along. Sano said he would and joked about bringing some crayfish. Before leaving, Aikawa quietly glanced at Miya. Yumoto told him to reach out if anything came up. Aikawa thanked him and asked him to tell Sano first before visiting the mountain area. Sano looked at Rin and waved goodbye. Rin gave a small wave back without saying anything. After Aikawa and Rin left, Miya finally came out. Sano asked if she was leaving too. Maya said it was time, but then quietly mentioned that Aikawa already had a girlfriend. Sano confirmed that it was the woman in the passenger seat. Miya admitted she felt a bit emotional and said meeting Aikawa again was risky for her. She explained that she fell in love too easily and thought it was better not to see him too often. She thanked Sano for inviting her. Even though Sano knew he wasn't the popular type of person, he still felt a little sad knowing that Maya doesn't even consider him. After Miya left, Yuma walked up to Sano and snuggled against him. Sano felt touched and hugged her back, thanking her. Then he wondered where Pochi had gone. Suddenly, Pochi came out of the bushes with another snake in his beak. Sano and Yumoto were shocked and didn't say anything at first. After the old man Yumoto praised him, Pochi tried to go out again to find more, but Sano stopped him. Pochi didn't like that and started pecking him many times. Sano told Pochi that his beak smelled bad, and Pochi pecked him even more. Then Yumoto said there would be a gathering later and he wanted to show the snake to everyone. He thanked Pochi for bringing another one. Sano told Pochi that it was time to go home, but Pochi just stared at him without a sound. Before heading back, Sano cleaned the grass and dirt off of Pochi. Then they got into the small truck and got ready to leave. Before they left, Sano told Pochi again that his beak really smelled like fish. Sano forgot to rinse his mouth afterward. The ride home was quiet, but as soon as Sano stepped out of the truck, Pochi started pecking him again. Soon after, Yumoto called Sano and asked if he could borrow 2 chickens starting the next day. But he wanted to explain things better, so he told Sano to come over right away. Sano agreed and told Yumoto to also call Pochi and Tama. When they got into the small truck, Sano noticed that all 3 chickens couldn't fit in the front seat anymore. One of them had to ride in the back. He pulled off the truck cover and Pochi and Tama hopped onto the back. Sano said one of them could sit up front, but Tama pecked him in response. They soon arrived at Old Man Yumoto's house. Pochi looked ready to hunt, but Yumoto told him not to chase anything today because he would need his help tomorrow. Sano asked if Pochi would wait in the yard, and Pochi answered with another peck. Sano and Yumoto sat down to talk. Yumoto said he showed the snake that Pochi had caught the other day. Since Pochi caught 2 snakes in a short time, Yumoto thought there were a lot of tiger keelback snakes around. Sano asked if the man who used to own the place kept many snakes, but Yumoto guessed the number grew during breeding season in the summer after some were released in the spring. The snakes probably had babies without anyone noticing. Sano was confused because he thought the owner had died much later, but Yumoto said there were reports that the snakes were let go when the owner was sent to the hospital. Since it seemed like he might recover, the snakes were released. That meant the story about releasing the snakes after the owner died was not true. Sano thought that was a terrible thing. Yumoto explained that tiger keelback snakes usually mated before hibernation and laid eggs during the summer, but sometimes they also mated after waking up from hibernation. Sano guessed that it was almost time for the breeding season. Yumoto said having a few snakes around was okay, but if too many showed up, it could be a problem. He asked Sano if he could borrow 2 chickens for a month and promised that the village would pay for it. Sano was surprised and said he didn't need money, but Yumoto quickly disagreed. He didn't want Sano to brush it off. He understood that the chickens were helpful around Sano's mountain, and losing 2 for a whole month would be hard. He thought it was only fair to give something in return. Sano finally agreed. Yumoto then told Pochi to take the weekends off, which was why they would start the next day. It was now decided that Pochi and Tama would help hunt snakes. Sano warned the 2 not to hurt the villagers or their pets, but Pochi and Tama acted like they didn't hear him as usual. When the day came, Yumoto reminded Sano to come back the next weekend to pick up the chickens. Then he asked the chickens to follow him. Before leaving, he said he was heading home, but the chickens didn't even look back. Yumoto assumed the silence was for him and told Sano to call if anything happened. As he walked back to his vehicle, Sano pouted and tried to convince himself that he wasn't expecting the chickens to turn around, and that he wasn't feeling emotional. On his way home, Sano stopped at the village's general store. He bought some tofu and deep-fried gourd. He also got a free bag of okra. Sometimes he cooked it with vegetables, and the chickens loved it. These days, okra cookies were even being sold as diet food. Sano finally got home and looked around for Yuma, who had stayed behind. He told her he brought back some okra, and Yuma happily wagged her tail. Sano smiled when he saw her tail moving, although lately it had been swinging so hard it felt more like a club than a tail. This reminded him of the time the chickens hunted a wild boar using their strong tails. Back then, they weren't even that tall yet. Sano was starting to feel a bit scared of how fast they were growing. Still, he was thankful he didn't have to worry about feeding them. They could hunt for food on their own. Because of the rainy weather, many of the plants kept getting sick. The chickens could eat the bugs, but they couldn't stop the plant diseases that came with the rain. Sano just hoped the rain would stop soon. In the afternoon, he checked the river to see if the water level was rising, then came back home to rest. At dinner, he accidentally served 3 extra bowls. He had forgotten that Pochi and Tama weren't there. After eating, Sano and Yuma went to take a bath. He noticed that if they kept growing, they wouldn't fit in the tub together anymore. He started thinking about getting a bigger one. That quiet night, Sano found himself thinking about picking up the 2 chickens on Saturday. For now, it was just him and Yuma. He didn't expect to feel this lonely. He realized that the 3 of them had become like family to him. Family he couldn't replace. He didn't care about money. He just wanted his chickens back, even if he couldn't say it out loud. He looked at Yuma and asked if she could sleep next to him. Without a word, she quietly moved closer. Sano softly said sorry for being such a lousy owner. The next morning, Yumoto made a surprise visit to Sano's house. Sano asked what was going on, but first invited him to come inside. Yumoto said no because he was leaving right away. Sano noticed that Yumoto looked tired. Yumoto explained that he didn't sleep well because the chickens were making noise. Sano felt bad and apologized. He remembered that when his chickens crowed in the middle of the night, it meant they were growing. It happened before when he first got them, but he had forgotten since it hadn't happened lately. Yumoto said he didn't really mind the noise, but he was worried it might bother the neighbors. So he asked Sano to let the chickens out in the morning, and Yumoto would bring them back in the evening. He apologized for the request, but said he would really appreciate it. Sano agreed, and Yumoto said he would give him some extra gas. Sano said it wasn't necessary, but the serious old man insisted, telling him to just take it. Sano didn't argue. He knew he couldn't win against Yumoto when he made up his mind. As Yumoto got into his vehicle, the chickens, Pochi and Tama, slowly walked toward the nearby forest. When Sano noticed, he told them to come back before it got dark. But the 2 chickens suddenly ran off. Sano couldn't believe they still had so much energy after running around the village all day. Before leaving, Yumoto gave Sano some pickled vegetables from his home. Sano asked if he should let the chickens out at 8 o'clock, but Yumoto said to just do it around the same time he came by the other day. After Yumoto left, Sano felt relieved. Having Pochi and Tama with him at night felt really special. It made him happy. But trouble began after he fell asleep. Late at night, the loud crowing of Pochi and Tama echoed through the house. Sano tried to ignore it, but he finally lost his temper. He kicked the noisy chickens outside and told them to come back in when they got tired. Even an owl resting on a tree branch looked surprised by the chickens' late-night energy. The next morning, Sano found the two chickens sleeping outside, covered in leaves and small branches. Pochi saw him and woke up while Tama kept sleeping. Sano thought maybe they were awake at night because they still had too much energy. Sano greeted everyone loudly and told them, except for Yuma, to wash up because they were dirty. He gave them a shower, but he ended up getting wet too thanks to Pochi shaking off water. Tama got dried with a towel instead. After breakfast, Sano, still feeling sleepy, took the chickens outside again. Yuma looked at him with worried eyes. Sano told her not to worry, he was just taking the other two to their part-time job. He felt a little bad about leaving her behind, but since he planned to talk with the old man, he decided to bring her along too. On the way there, it started to rain. The night before had clear weather, so he didn't mind kicking the noisy chickens outside. But if it rained at night, he couldn't do that. He found it really annoying. When they arrived at the old man's house, Yumoto happily welcomed Sano. Sano, curious, asked how his chickens did the other day. Yumoto explained that Pochi and Tama checked his garden, his fields, and even the nearby ones. They found 2 small tiger keelback snakes and some eggs. He said the chickens did a great job over the past 2 days. Sano was a bit surprised. Yumoto noticed and asked if something was wrong. Sano just said it was hard to explain. The farm's rice fields and gardens were big, but since the farm was in the mountains, the fields were smaller than those on flat land. On average, they were about 2,000 subos, or around 1.6 acres. The farm also had 2 mountain peaks, but the chickens had only explored one of them so far. Even that one peak was about 30,000 subos, or 24.5 acres. That was a lot of land for just one owner. The chickens had been walking around the large area all day, but they still didn't seem to get enough exercise. Yumoto was surprised when he heard that. Sano told him to let the chickens cover a bigger area, maybe 5 farms over 2 days, because his chickens were used to wandering around mountain land. Yumoto agreed that this might be why the chickens were acting restless. Still, he had already planned out the chickens' patrol schedule. He said he would talk about it again later and apologized for not understanding the situation well. Sano said it was actually his fault for not thinking about it sooner. For now, Yumoto took Pochi and Tama and went to the farm he had planned to visit that day. Sano took a short break and Yumoto's wife apologized for the trouble. Sano said it was really his responsibility and not to worry too much. She told him not to be so serious. After eating some snacks, Sano drove back home. He looked at Yuma, who was calmer than the other chickens, and wondered if she was getting enough exercise. He told her to go play and not to worry about him. But after he said that, she lightly pecked him a few times. In the evening, Yumoto brought the chickens back home just as he said he would. Sano thought that since the weekend was coming and it would be their day off, the chickens would probably spend all their time walking around the mountains. But that night, he realized the chickens still had too much energy. They started making noise again. Sadly, it was raining, so Sano couldn't send them outside. He ended up listening to their noisy clucking all night long. The next morning, Pochi and Tama seemed excited to move around. Sano was surprised they still had energy after making noise all night. The big bag of okra had also disappeared. The chickens ate it all after running around the mountains and getting tired. But then it started to rain. Sano had hoped the chickens would go wild and use up some energy. He could also feel how wet the air was. If he didn't do anything, mold would probably start to grow. He had a lot of things to do. So he went to pick some cucumbers. He ate one raw and enjoyed its fresh taste. Yuma showed up and Sano gave her one too. She started chewing on it. Sano got a bit worried. Her teeth were so sharp it felt like she might bite off his finger by accident. He started to wonder if his chickens were even real chickens. During the day, Pochi and Tama often roamed around the mountains and didn't come home much. But Sano felt better just knowing they were close by. Seeing their large size and strong tails, Sano believed they were the top hunters in the area, so he didn't worry too much. He even thought the 3 of them had gotten bigger just to make him feel safe, kind of like Rin at Aikawa's place. It was odd, but not impossible. Their size also matched how loud they were. Since he had nothing special to do that day, Sano cooked some simmered komatsuna with deep-fried tofu. Then he took a nap. He noticed that Yuma was just quietly doing her own thing around the house. It was already dark when Pochi and Tama came back. The night passed calmly, and Sano guessed the 2 were just under-exercised the day before. On Sunday morning, Sano saw that the clouds were really dark. Even though the weather forecast said it wouldn't rain, he shouted and asked if chickens could sense the weather or something. Tama gave him a sharp look. It felt like she was saying, "What are you even talking about?" Sano realized they still treated him pretty harshly. This time, Pochi and Yuma went out on patrol. Usually Yuma stayed by Sano's side, but it looked like they were taking turns. Sano guessed it was so Yuma could get some exercise. Since it wasn't raining, Sano decided to visit the cemetery on the mountain. He had to take care of it often, or he believed he might get cursed. After all, he lived on the same mountain. He also felt bad that the family members of the people buried there weren't the ones cleaning the graves. After praying and cleaning, Sano realized he hadn't visited his own family's graves in a long time. But he thought about the Obon festival coming up. The cemetery would be crowded, and he might run into people he knew. If he brought his chickens with him, it would cause a scene. He could leave them behind, but that would mean they'd be alone for a whole day. Keeping them in the car too long also worried him. Then Tama spoke and told him not to worry. Sano was shocked. Did Tama just talk? That's when he realized his chickens could talk, just like Rin and Ten. To test it, he told Tama about his worries, but Tama simply said she wouldn't listen. That was when Sano became completely sure. His chickens really could understand and speak. He felt so moved that he gave Tama a sudden hug, but Tama hit him with her tail, knocking him to the ground. She followed up by pecking him over and over. Crying, Sano apologized. When he thought about it, hugging her out of nowhere was wrong. He was just used to Yuma, who always let him hug her. As the sky started to get dark, Sano said it was time to go home. Just then, he got a call from Yumoto. The old man said he planned to have the chickens patrol 5 to 6 farms at once and would explain more later. Sano thought that sounded much better than just one farm a day. After that, Sano saw a message from Aikawa asking if he wanted to go to the neighboring town. Sano quickly said yes. The next morning, he brought his chickens to the old man's place. He explained that the chickens didn't get much exercise. That was when Yumoto finally realized the chickens were not normal. Pochi and Tama were heading out again that day to check on a group of nearby farms, since many of them were close together. Yumoto also talked about how good snake eggs tasted. He said they were rich and delicious, but it was too bad they were hard to find. Sano realized snake eggs weren't something people could easily get. He asked if the villagers were keeping track of how many snakes there were. Yumoto said they tried not to catch all of them. Still, the villagers didn't really know the exact number, so sometimes they just let some go after catching them. Sano was surprised they had thought about it that much. Yumoto reminded him that tiger keelback snakes were very poisonous, but it was okay to have a few around because snakes helped get rid of rats and other pests. But if too many poisonous snakes showed up, that would be a problem. Sano understood. It was hard for people and dangerous animals to live near each other. He also knew that animals were often affected by the way humans lived. Of course, there were also things people couldn't control. Sano then said he had to go out and might be back late, but he would let Yumoto know. He asked if Yumoto could send the chickens back before it got dark. Yumoto told him to inform him if his timing didn't work out. Sano told Pochi and Tama to listen to the old man, but the chickens ignored him. Yumoto joked that Sano was well liked, but Sano didn't know what he meant. Looking a bit upset, Sano went back to his small truck. Tama then cuddled up to his arm. Sano said she was cute and gave her a hug. He thanked Tama and told her he was okay. Then he told Aikawa he was heading out. Before driving away, Sano looked at his chickens again and wondered if he was really their owner. He felt like crying. The chickens went on their patrol. Tama quickly found some snake eggs. She was about to eat them but remembered Yumoto. So she and Pochi brought the eggs back as a gift for the old man. Meanwhile, Sano met up with Aikawa, who said sorry for being late. They drove to the next town. When they got there, Sano told Tama to stay in the truck and be careful. He couldn't walk around town with a big chicken. At that moment, Sano saw Aikawa holding something. Aikawa said it was his work clothes, and he planned to wash them at the coin laundry. He explained that when he dried them inside, the smell wouldn't go away. Sano wondered if going to the laundromat would help. Aikawa told him they had a hot water wash there, which could make a difference. Sano knew that detergent helped, but he was surprised that hot water could also work. He remembered using bleach before and thought it might have affected his chickens, but hot water seemed safe. Later, Sano came out of the store after buying a lot of things. He saw Aikawa sitting in his light truck and wondered if he had made him wait too long. Aikawa was quietly leaning on Rin's shoulder. Sano looked at them for a bit, then said sorry for taking so long. Rin suddenly said, "The woman is here." Sano asked what she meant. Aikawa, looking nervous and sweating, said it was the same woman he had talked about before. Sano got confused and thought it might be the woman who had once followed Aikawa around. Aikawa said he could be wrong, but the woman's face and body looked just like hers. Sano said that even if it was a mistake, it was still creepy and suggested they go home early. But Aikawa asked Sano to go with him so he could be sure. Sano didn't really want to, but agreed anyway. He thought a lawyer should be handling this, not him. But he understood that Aikawa just wanted to make sure. Suddenly, Rin hugged Aikawa tightly. She didn't want him to go, she could tell he was acting differently than usual. Sano realized she was right. Aikawa was normally very careful and wouldn't do something like this. Aikawa stayed quiet for a moment, then let out a deep sigh. He thanked Rin and said he would just finish shopping with Sano instead. Rin told him firmly to come back soon and asked Sano to look after him. Sano promised they'd be back soon and told Yuma the same. Yuma also told them to return quickly. Sano thought that would be the end of it. After they went back to the mountains, he expected Aikawa to just call him later. But after their shopping trip, Sano noticed something strange. Aikawa had stepped outside first, and now he stood completely still. In front of him were a man and a woman. The woman bowed and asked if he was the Aikawa she knew. She said it was crazy how they ran into each other like this. Then she introduced herself as Kanu Yuko. Aikawa didn't say anything. He was frozen and started sweating nervously. The woman asked how Aikawa had been doing lately. When he saw that Aikawa was shaking, Sano gently patted him on the back. That helped Aikawa snap out of it, and he nervously asked who she was. The woman said she was Kanu Sango's sister, but now she went by the name Itu Sango. She said sorry for confusing him. Somehow, Aikawa felt a bit better after learning she was just the sister. The four of them sat down at a nearby cafe to talk. Yuko asked who Sano was. Aikawa explained that Sano was a friend who had been with him ever since the incident, because after that, Aikawa became scared of meeting women around his age. The group apologized to Aikawa sincerely. The man with Yuko turned out to be her brother. Then they shared the full story. At the end of last month, the woman they were talking about had just gotten married, and they were supposed to have a happy reunion. Before getting married, she had wanted to apologize to Aikawa, so she went to the nearby town he had been visiting. It was a brave thing to do, but since she only knew the general area where he lived, she couldn't find him. Later that month, she thought she saw someone who looked like Aikawa and told her siblings. Since she wasn't sure, she decided to send him a letter to say sorry instead. In the end, it turned out that the woman Aikawa had seen last month really was his stalker. Aikawa then asked, looking worried, if that woman had come to the town several times. Yuko said yes and explained that they had been taking turns visiting. She said it was their third visit, and if they couldn't find him by the end of the month, they planned to give the letter to Aikawa's lawyer instead. Aikawa told them they could have done that, but they weren't sure if he would actually get it. Aikawa let out another deep sigh. He said he wouldn't accept the letter or their apologies. All he wanted was for them to stay out of his life. The siblings apologized again. Aikawa told them he didn't need their sorry and just asked them to say congratulations to their sister on her marriage. Yuko quietly thanked him. Sano, who had been quietly listening, noticed that his drink didn't taste the same anymore. He couldn't really explain how he felt. The person who caused the pain got happily married, while Aikawa was still hurt and afraid of women around that age. It didn't feel right that the one who suffered carried more pain than the one who caused it. After that, the siblings left. Aikawa said at least it was finally over. With tears in his eyes, he said he didn't need to be scared of that woman anymore. Sano didn't say anything. Aikawa added that his fear of women wouldn't go away so quickly. Sano suggested he see a psychiatrist. Aikawa said he wouldn't go, but he might ask Sano for help again in the future. Sano offered to go with him if he ever wanted to visit the town again. Aikawa then asked him to visit Rin and Ten sometimes. Meanwhile, Yuma felt uneasy because Sano hadn't come back yet. When she saw Rin's unhappy face, she sighed, like she felt the same way. The men stayed in town for a while until they thought it was a good time to go back home. They didn't want to risk being secretly followed to the mountains. Then Sano suddenly panicked. He had forgotten to put the things he bought earlier into the cooler. When they got back to their trucks, Rin complained that they were too slow. Aikawa told her it was just the brother and sister who made them late. Rin said he should have ignored them. Aikawa apologized, saying they had already seen him. Rin said she was upset and Aikawa apologized again. Sano watched the couple argue in the truck behind him. Then he remembered he needed to apologize to Yuma for being late, but Yuma didn't say anything and just ignored him. Sano said sorry and explained he couldn't just leave Aikawa alone. Yuma told him he should have. Sano gave her a hug and said he was only worried about Aikawa. To be safe, Sano and Aikawa took a different route before heading back to the village near the mountains. Right away, Aikawa called his lawyer to check on the situation. He expected a reply later that night. He admitted that he still felt nervous after seeing his ex-stalker last month. Sano was glad Aikawa didn't have to talk to her. Still, he thought it was scarier that Aikawa even noticed her. Aikawa thanked Sano for going with him. Sano said it was nothing since he just sat around most of the time. Aikawa told him that his support meant a lot. If Sano hadn't been there, he might have just run away in embarrassment. Sano said running away wouldn't have been so bad. Aikawa agreed, but added that it would have left him stuck with all his feelings inside. Sano agreed that would have felt terrible. When they got home, Sano said sorry to Yuma for making her stay too long in the car. Yuma got out of the small truck and said she was tired. Sano said he understood and thanked her a lot. Yuma walked around for a bit, picked at some bugs on the ground, then came back to Sano. He told her it was okay to play, but instead Yuma just pecked him. Right before it got dark, Yumoto showed up with the other chickens. Pochi and Tama ran off toward the woods. Sano felt happy that they got some exercise, but he started to think Yuma was the total opposite of them. Yumoto said he would talk about what happened today tomorrow. He gave Sano a can of mandarin oranges. Sano wondered if his chickens could eat them, but he also worried they might get cavities because the oranges were canned and sugary. That night, even though the chickens were quiet the night before, Sano stayed alert. If it didn't rain the next day, he planned to let them outside. That same night, Aikawa got a phone call from his lawyer to check some details. The woman they had talked about really did get married last month and moved far away to another part of the country. Aikawa didn't want anything to do with her anymore, so he told his lawyer not to accept her apology letter or anything else from her. He said he felt relieved. Sano didn't say anything. He wondered why Aikawa didn't want to see the woman one last time or even try to get her in trouble for what she did, but in the end he figured it was Aikawa's choice to make. The next morning, Pochi and Yuma went out to the garden. Yumoto noticed how active they were and asked if they had slept well. Sano said they did, but he wasn't sure what might happen later in the day. Yumoto was happy the chickens had their energy back, especially since they found 3 snakes the day before. Sano asked if they were the tiger keelback snakes. Yumoto said that one of them was a pit viper. This reminded Sano again that there were many venomous snakes in the area. Still, Yumoto explained that the chickens had already searched 6 fields and rice paddies. He planned to have them check those places again just to be sure, though he didn't think they would find anything new. Sano then asked if the man who used to own the snakes had any from other countries. Yumoto said he had heard that he did, but no one knew how he got them. It might have been fine if he followed the rules for keeping them, but getting rid of the snakes later had become a big problem. Yumoto said that some people just left the snakes behind when they became too hard to take care of, which was wrong. He also shared that someone in the mountain village got bitten by a pit viper. Still, Yumoto thought it might not be a big deal since someone seemed to get bitten every year. He felt like people were just overreacting, but hearing this made Sano nervous. The idea that someone got bitten every year scared him. He started worrying out loud about snakes from other countries. Then he realized he might be predicting something bad. He told his chickens to bring back any strange snakes they found just in case. Pochi kept walking and Yuma gave a quiet nod. Yumoto said he would return them in the evening like usual. Later, Sano playfully asked Tama if she still disliked someone. Tama answered with a quick peck. Aikawa had called earlier asking if Sano was coming. Sano wondered if Tama would go with him. Since she didn't answer, he teased her a bit and got more pecks in return. He guessed Tama still didn't like Rin and Ten. After that, it started raining again and didn't stop. Sano thought about going out to look around, but guessed the ground was too soft from the rain, so he stayed home. Meanwhile, his chickens were still moving through the mud without any trouble. Sano wondered if they had a secret to walking through it so easily. Sano realized he had to check the empty houses nearby. These houses, where no one lived, slowly became worse over time. They should have been torn down before the rainy season started. But tearing down houses cost money. Sano thought it would be best to ask the village head for advice. The thought of those empty houses also made him feel a bit lonely. He decided to put off the chickens' vaccinations and other tasks until after the rainy season. Sano looked at Tama and told her to patrol like she always did while he checked the empty house. Tama simply turned away and Sano thanked her. He knew she was pretending not to listen, but she was actually kind. He spoke out loud, wondering if Tama was a tsundere. Tama heard him and gave him a hard peck on the back. Sano wondered if she really understood what that word meant, and if she really acted that way. Back at home, while Sano checked for mold, he got a text from Mia. She sent a photo and said that Tatsuki had eaten something. The photo only showed the tail of a snake, but Sano could tell what kind of snake it was just from the tail. He replied and said he would check on her later in the afternoon. He realized that the snake problems were far from over. Sano went online to look for anything that looked like the snake tail in the photo, but it was hard for him to figure it out. Since the old man was coming back soon with the chickens, Sano decided to let him take a look. When Yumoto saw the photo, he confirmed it was a poisonous snake. He was worried if Tatsuki, the big lizard, would be okay. Sano wasn't sure. Yumoto then suggested asking Mia to bring Tatsuki over. Just as expected, Mia panicked when Sano told her the snake might have been dangerous. Then Sano remembered. His chickens had been eating these snakes the whole time. Mia agreed to bring Tatsuki. Sano also remembered that Aikawa's house was at the end of the road, so he planned to visit there afterward. He joked out loud that he had been popular lately. He looked at his chickens to see their reaction. Pochi and Tama just stared at him in silence, then turned away. Sano felt a little hurt and went to Yuma for comfort, thinking she would be on his side. But Yuma also turned her head away. Sano was shocked. That night, while lying in bed, Sano kept telling himself that he wasn't actually popular, and he knew it. Luckily, the night was calm and the chickens didn't make any noise. The next day, Tama and Yuma went with Yumoto. Yumoto told them the place they were going to was a little far, but they had to wait for Mia first. While waiting, he asked Sano what it was like during the day when only one chicken was around. Sano said nothing really changed because the chickens still walked around and kept watch. Yumoto was glad to hear that. He asked Sano to let him know if anything strange happened while the chickens were gone. Soon, Mia arrived looking a bit rushed and saying sorry for being late. Yumoto said it was okay and greeted her. Mia then showed them a snake tail inside a bottle. Yumoto looked at it closely and noticed it had a pattern he hadn't seen around before. He asked if he could take it and Mia quickly said yes. In fact, she was happy for someone else to deal with it. Yumoto thanked her and apologized for making her come all the way there, but Mia felt more sorry for not being more helpful. Yumoto told her not to worry since he hadn't even welcomed her properly. Then, Yumoto left with Tama and Yuma. Pochi, the dog, was in the garden. Tatsuki climbed out of the light truck. Sano and Mia stayed quiet for a while, until Mia asked if Sano had any plans for the day. Sano said he was going to the Western Mountain. Mia asked if that was where Aikawa lived. Sano said yes. She asked if he met Aikawa often, and Sano said they sometimes went to town together. Maya suddenly felt a little sad. She felt jealous that they got to go to town together. She reminded herself that she often fell in love too easily and needed to be careful. Sano, on the other hand, realized he probably didn't seem romantic at all. Then Mia asked about his plans for the next day. Sano said he had nothing else to do besides dropping off and picking up his chickens. Mia said she would be cooking a meal and invited him to come over. Since she was acting so calm, Sano realized Mia didn't have any special feelings for him. Still, Sano decided to go to Aikawa's place with Pochi. He didn't mind anymore if no one saw him as a man or a love interest. As he looked at Mia through the side mirror, he thought she looked cute, but he had no plans to do anything about it. He didn't have any secret hopes or wishes. On the way, Sano suddenly stopped and asked Pochi if he could catch some crawfish. They didn't have any souvenirs for Rin and Ten, and Sano thought crawfish might be a nice gift. But the river looked too dangerous because of the recent rain. Still, Pochi nodded. Sano asked if he was really sure, and Pochi just said, okay. Then Pochi stared at Sano with his beak open, showing his sharp teeth. Sano got scared and said he would go back and let Pochi try catching some crawfish. Later, Pochi caught only a few crawfish at the river because the current was too strong. Sano complained that people kept letting crawfish and snakes go into the mountain areas. After drying off Pochi, Sano drove to Aikawa's house. Rin and Ten were outside, waiting for him. Sano greeted them. Pochi jumped out of the light truck by himself and left the door open. Sano asked if it was okay for Pochi to eat the bugs around, and the snake said he could. Aikawa came out and greeted Sano. Sano said sorry for being late and explained that Pochi wanted to bring crawfish as a gift. Pochi pecked him hard on the back for using him as an excuse. Aikawa thanked them for always being thoughtful. Sano said he didn't catch that many crawfish. Aikawa understood and said the weather made it hard. He also asked if they had any trouble on the way. Sano said the water was high. Aikawa wasn't surprised. Rin and Ten thanked Sano and called him a good person. For some reason, Pochi didn't like that. Sano was getting used to hearing about the snakes, but the big ones still made him nervous. Aikawa asked if it was okay to visit Sano again sometime. Sano said it would be fine after 2 days. Then Aikawa asked what Sano was doing the next day. Sano, a bit unsure, said that Mia had invited him to her place. Aikawa joked that Sano was popular, but Sano didn't like hearing that from him. He said it wasn't like that at all because Mia didn't even see him as a man. Later, Aikawa served a lot of food and Sano was surprised. He asked if Aikawa always made that much. Aikawa said he only did it when Sano came over. Sano remembered that Aikawa also went hunting, so he thought maybe Aikawa's hunting friends visited during hunting season. But Aikawa said he was usually alone from spring to summer, so he liked having someone to cook for. Still, he reminded Sano that he couldn't let just anyone come up the mountain where he lived. Sano apologized for always depending on him, but Aikawa told him not to worry. He said he also relied on Sano a lot, especially when Sano went with him to town. He was really thankful for that. Sano said maybe it was time he stopped going along with him, but Aikawa told him to stop saying things like that. Aikawa changed the subject and brought up how Rin liked Yuma. Sano guessed that girls got along well, especially after seeing how the two connected while waiting in town. He then realized that Rin and Yuma could probably talk about things only girls understood, even if they were from different species. He asked Aikawa to invite them over again. Sano also said it felt like everything had finally come to an end. Aikawa agreed, saying he could now leave peacefully. He had always wanted to do many things while living in the mountains. Sano paused for a moment and then brought up a new topic. He said he needed to tear down some empty houses and visit the animal hospital in the next town. Aikawa remembered it was for getting the animals vaccinated. Sano wasn't sure if the hospital would accept his giant chickens. Aikawa agreed that their pets were pretty unusual. The day went by quickly as the two men had a lot to talk about. Sano chose not to tell Aikawa about how he felt toward Mia. To be honest, he didn't even remember those feelings until he had already left Aikawa's mountain. He just believed things would work out somehow. Later on, Yumoto arrived with the chickens. The old man said they would explore bigger areas over the next 2 days to get rid of dangerous snakes and similar animals. If there were snakes around, the chickens would get a feast. Pochi and Tama were going to be sent out for that job. The next day, Sano went to Mia's house with Yuma. The sky looked like it was about to rain. When he arrived, Mia thanked him for coming. She had just finished picking vegetables from her garden. Like always, Sano went to say hi to Tatsuki. Mia offered to make some tea, but Sano said it was okay. He sat on the porch and told Yuma to go play. Yuma just looked at him sweetly. Sano smiled and patted her head. He noticed how nice her feathers looked and thought maybe it was because they had bathed together. It wasn't like Pochi and Tama were dirty either. They took dust and water baths. If they ever got dirty, Sano would clean them. He then started to wonder if it was okay to wash birds so often, but since they looked healthy, he decided not to worry about it. Mia soon came back with some tea. Sano thanked her and gave her a small gift. Mia smiled and said she would go get some snacks. Earlier, when Sano first arrived, Mia had smiled at Yuma. But Yuma felt a little nervous and moved in front of Sano like she was trying to protect him. While they sat, feeling the warm wind, Sano said it felt like summer was coming. Mia came back with some cold noodles. Sano thought they looked really good. Maya said she made them because of the weather. Sano didn't wait and started eating. He said they tasted great. Maya was happy to hear that. After he finished eating, Mia told him she had picked a lot of peppers and asked if he wanted some. Sano thanked her. Then Mia brought up something that was still on her mind. The snake Tatsuki had eaten. Sano said he hadn't heard anything new about it. Mia hoped it was just a normal snake. After that, they sat quietly for a while like they usually did. Maya started feeding Yuma some vegetables and the crunching sounds made Sano turn his head. Then she shared, though a bit unsure, that she had been living in the mountains for 2 years. Sano felt nervous, unsure of what Mia was trying to say. Mia continued and said she had only met Aikawa for the first time recently. Sano asked in a cold voice if that was true, and Mia quickly said it was. She admitted she had heard stories about him but didn't expect him to be so cool. Sano seemed annoyed. If Mia wanted him to help match her with Aikawa, he wasn't going to do it. Even though the stalker problem had been solved, Aikawa still struggled when it came to talking to women his age. Suddenly, Maya asked with excitement if Sano also thought Aikawa was cool. Sano didn't answer right away. He felt a strange feeling he couldn't explain. Then he agreed, saying Aikawa did look like a celebrity or something. Maya was happy to hear that. She told him she had been nervous when she met Aikawa and said she fell in love too easily. She also mentioned that the person she lived with before was very good looking, but she wanted to change and become stronger, which is why she moved to the mountains. Sano didn't fully understand what she meant. Then Mia said she wanted to watch over the relationship between Aikawa and Sano. Both Sano and Yuma looked confused. Sano tried to ask her more, but Mia stopped him. She told him not to get the wrong idea. She wasn't a bad girl or anything. She just liked seeing the two of them get along and said she admired their friendship. Sano started to feel a little confused. He admitted that he sometimes spent time with Aikawa. Mia thought that sounded nice and asked Sano to talk about some of the things they talked about. Sano said there wasn't anything special. Still, he mentioned that he once stayed over at Aikawa's place. Mia got excited and asked for more details. As they talked, she kept moving closer to Sano. With bright eyes, she asked if the two of them really went to the nearby town together. Mia looked a little scary in a strange way, but she seemed okay, so Sano shared a bit more. When he told her he once passed out drunk at Aikawa's place, Mia got even more excited. When it was time to leave, Mia waved at Sano with a big smile and asked him to tell more stories next time. While driving, Sano asked Yuma what Mia meant when she said corrupted girl. But of course Yuma, the chicken, had no idea. Anyway, Sano had gotten a lot of peppers from Mia and wondered how many she had even planted. For some reason, he felt really tired. When he checked his phone, he saw a message from Aikawa asking if he could come over the next day. Since Sano didn't have anything else to do except take care of the chickens, he said yes. Since Aikawa was coming the next day, Sano decided to go shopping before picking up Pochi and Tama. The last time Aikawa visited, Sano only gave him tea and snacks. This time he wanted to prepare something better, but he didn't have any meat at home. He also didn't cook as carefully as Aikawa did. Still, he thought that if he used good ingredients, the food might turn out okay. So he called the poultry farm. They told him they had a new product they wanted him to try. It was vacuum sealed, which made it a good chance for him to try cooking it at home. When Sano arrived at the farm, the owner's wife asked if he had already eaten. Sano said he had, and the wife looked a bit disappointed. He felt a little bad and thought maybe he should have eaten there instead. They gave him a vacuum-sealed whole chicken. It didn't have the insides, and it was stuffed with sticky rice, jujubes, and chestnuts. It even came with soup. The owner asked his wife what the dish was called. She said it was a Korean dish named samgyetang. Sano then asked how much it cost. The owner said he just wanted to know what Sano thought of the dish after trying it. Sano asked if it cost at least 1,000 yen or so. The wife said it was okay. Sano was letting them see a rare type of chicken, and she also wanted to hear what younger people thought about the dish. Sano wasn't sure if he still counted as young, but he was still in his 20s. Driving away, Sano realized he should bring a gift next time. He also got a piece of paper with the recipe written on it. Then he went to the general store before heading to Old Man Yumoto's house. At the store, some kids were surprised to see a giant chicken like Yuma. They asked if they could touch her, and Sano said it was okay as long as they were gentle. He told them to ask the chicken first and to be careful. Yuma quietly let the kids pet her. Sano was happy that the kids were only surprised and didn't run away after seeing how big Yuma was. For some reason, the people in that village were used to things like this and didn't seem to mind. After that, Sano finally reached Yumoto's house to pick up Pochi and Tama. Yumoto said sorry for making him come over, but Sano said it was fine since he was already out shopping. He then asked if he could buy some vegetables from them. Yumoto told him not to be so formal and to just take what he needed. Yumoto shared a story about how the chickens had found 3 pit vipers. He also said that even the other villagers would probably give Sano free vegetables if he visited them, as a way to say thanks. Hearing about 3 poisonous snakes was a lot to take in. Yumoto then told him to wait a moment and came back with a basket full of crops. Now that Sano had fresh vegetables, he had no excuse. He had to cook something. He asked Yumoto's wife to teach him how to cook. When he said he had a lot of peppers at home, she showed him how to make a Chinese-style dish. Thanks to her, Sano learned that oyster sauce could also be used for stir-frying. It was already night when Sano finally got home. He was getting ready to welcome Aikawa. He asked if Pochi and Yuma would be on duty the next day. Tama stared at him for a moment. Sano noticed and asked what was wrong. Tama quietly said, "Aikawa?" like she was asking a question. Sano said yes, Aikawa was coming tomorrow. That's when he realized Tama wasn't hiding that she could talk anymore. Tama moved closer and gave him a sharp look, making it clear that she would be on duty. Sano didn't understand why. Tama kept saying she would be on duty again and again. Her jagged teeth were so close to his face that Sano actually felt a little scared. Then it hit him. When Aikawa came, Rin would be with him. He started wondering how much Tama didn't like Rin. Curious, Sano asked if Tama was volunteering because Aikawa and the others were coming. Tama didn't answer with words. Instead, she pecked him over and over. Sano ended up crying, apologizing, and saying that Pochi and Tama would be on duty. Only then did Tama stop. Sano hoped he could see Tama's softer side someday. After that, he asked Yuma if she was okay not being on duty. Yuma didn't say anything, she just walked up to him and started snuggling. Her gentle behavior made Sano tear up. Feeling emotional but touched, he got back to getting ready for Aikawa's visit. He wondered if everything was ready now. Soon after, light rain began to fall. Sano thought that with this kind of rain, Rin and Ten would still be able to move around. He got some cucumbers ready to smash and komatsuna ready to cook. Since the main dish was samgyetang, he just needed to make a Chinese dish he had learned recently. While Sano was pulling weeds outside, Aikawa finally showed up. They said the weather felt really humid and looked like it was going to rain harder. Rin and Ten then slid out of the small truck. Sano worried that they might have been uncomfortable in the car. Aikawa agreed and said that they didn't bring Ten along very often for that reason. Aikawa then saw Yuma and asked if his snakes could eat bugs and other small creatures around the area. Yuma just nodded, but the snakes really wanted to eat crawfish. Aikawa was surprised and asked Sano if they could go to the river. Sano warned that the water level was pretty high. Even so, Aikawa told his snakes to do what they wanted. Without waiting, the 2 snakes jumped into the river and quickly caught a lot of crawfish. Sano was surprised that there were so many to catch so easily. Aikawa then told his snakes he would be inside Sano's house. Rin replied that they understood. Sano wasn't sure how much the 2 would eat, but he thought they might wipe out the American crawfish in the area. He hoped this would help more fish and other animals return to the river. Later on, Aikawa was happy to see that samgyetang was being served, but he worried that the house might smell like herbs afterward. When he said that, Sano suddenly remembered that he needed to turn the exhaust fan on full blast. Aikawa then said this would be his first time tasting Sano's cooking. Sano told him it was just simple food and asked him not to expect too much. Sano started chopping the ingredients and stir-frying them. After cooking, he introduced the dish as hisanseon. Aikawa thought it smelled really good. Even though it was just vegetables, it looked fancy. While they ate, snakes nearby kept attacking the crawfish in the river. After the meal, Sano opened the windows and said that Korean and Chinese food really had strong smells. Aikawa asked if the samgyetang was being sold at the poultry farm. Sano explained that it was still in the testing stage. They would only decide to sell it after hearing people's opinions. Aikawa said he hoped it would be sold soon. He also said that hisan was great because it was a tasty way to eat a lot of vegetables, and it went well with rice. Sano agreed. He was happy Aikawa liked the food, but he also joked to himself that it would be tough if he had to host meals like this again. Then Aikawa remembered that Sano had visited Mia the day before. Sano said yes. Mia sometimes felt lonely and would call him over. Aikawa said he understood that feeling. Being alone could be nice, but sometimes it felt lonely too. That was why he had reached out to Sano. Aikawa asked Sano about his plan to tear down the empty houses. Sano said he was worried that something bad might move in, so he really wanted to get rid of them. But it cost a lot of money. He thought it might cost around 1,000,000 yen if he hired a professional. That's why many people just left old houses sitting in the mountains. But there were too many of them in clear view, so it was hard not to worry. Aikawa then thought about asking one of his hunting friends for help. He guessed they might help take down the houses if Sano let them hunt on his land during hunting season. Sano felt like the hunters could be trusted, but he was nervous about letting people into his mountains. He didn't want anyone to accidentally shoot his chickens. Aikawa suggested opening only the back part of the mountain. He said if Sano kept the chickens away while people were around, everything should be okay. Sano agreed that it sounded like a good plan and asked about Aikawa's side. Aikawa said he also planned to open the back of his mountain. He explained that many hunters didn't have their own land. Most of them lived near the mountains or had problems with animals ruining their farms, so they got hunting licenses. Sano wondered if he should open the back of his mountain too, but he was worried because it wasn't easy to reach. Aikawa told him not to worry. There was a gravel road that connected both of their mountains from the back. He said the hunters would be glad if Sano opened his land to them. Sano agreed, but asked Aikawa to talk to the hunters about being careful with his chickens. He also said he would give a reward to anyone who helped take down the old houses. Sano wasn't sure how everything would turn out, but he started to feel more hopeful. He thought he and Aikawa got along well since they never seemed to run out of things to talk about. Earlier, when the samgyetang was cooking and Sano opened the windows, the smell made Yuma run away. After some time, Sano realized it was already past 5 in the afternoon. It was almost time for the old man to come back with his chickens. He told Aikawa about it, and they both stopped what they were doing. Then they started to panic and quickly opened the doors. Sano knew it would be a big problem if Rin and Ten were seen. The old man wanted to see Ten, which was okay because Ten was just a snake. But if he saw Rin, it could cause trouble. Sano saw Yuma outside and asked her to tell Rin to stay away from his house because Yumoto was coming. He also told her to bring Ten back since the old man wanted to see him. Yuma looked confused, so Sano made it simpler. He just wanted Rin to stay at the river and for Yuma to bring Ten instead. Yuma finally understood and ran toward the river. Sano could only hope she got the message right. Aikawa was surprised that Sano could talk to his chickens so easily. Sano had always thought it was normal to talk to pets, but he realized his chickens were not like regular chickens. He agreed with Aikawa and started to see how much he depended on them. Just then, they heard the sound of an engine coming closer. It was a close call and both of them quietly let out a sigh of relief. Yumoto was surprised to see Aikawa there. Sano thanked Yumoto as he usually did. Hochi and Tama got down from the back of the small truck and looked around. Yumoto wondered where Aikawa's usual girlfriend was, but Aikawa gave a quick excuse and said she was helping him with work. He also mentioned that he brought his snake along. Yumoto had heard the snake was big, so he got excited and looked around. Sano told him that Yuma had gone to get the snake. Pochi and Tama stepped forward, and Sano noticed they looked a bit worried. Then the men heard some noise coming from the grass nearby. Yuma showed up and Ten, the snake, followed him. The snake lifted its body high, standing so tall that it was towering next to Yumoto. The old man started sweating, surprised by how big the snake was. Aikawa said this was the large snake he had been keeping and called Ten to come closer. Yumoto was amazed by the snake's size and asked how long it was. Aikawa said he hadn't measured it exactly but guessed it was about 4 meters long. Yumoto figured it must be heavy, and Aikawa agreed, saying even Ten's head was heavy. Then Ten rested his head on Aikawa's shoulder, and Aikawa asked him to be careful. Yumoto was glad the snake was calm and seemed close to Aikawa. Then he looked toward the food stands and loudly wondered what kinds of things were being sold at the festival. Sano asked if the festival was run by the villagers. Yumoto explained that about half of the stands were run by people from the village, but most of them were from traveling vendors. He added that many of the older villagers didn't have the energy to run a stall all day. Aikawa then asked if portable shrines were being carried during the festival. Yumoto said anyone who wanted to could carry it, but it depended on the festival committee that year. Aikawa understood it wasn't required. Yumoto joked that even the gods probably wouldn't want to be carried around if they didn't feel like it. That reminded Yumoto of something. He remembered they were going to be part of this year's summer festival, so he asked Sano if he could help. Sano told him to call anytime. Yumoto then walked back to his truck and promised to update Sano about the festival and the snake's tail. Sano thanked him and gave a polite bow. After Yumoto left, the two men let out a sigh of relief. Aikawa was glad that Sano had noticed it. Sano said sorry for talking too much. They both bowed and apologized for the trouble. Sano then asked about Rin and told Pochi to call her back. When Aikawa left, Tama started pecking Sano over and over. He wondered how much she disliked Rin and Ten. Even Sano himself would be scared to be near big snakes. He also called the couple from the poultry farm to thank them for the samgyetang. He said it tasted good, but the smell of the herbs was a bit too strong. The couple said they would try to make it better. Since Sano mentioned that someone else also liked the food, they promised to reach out again once they improved the dish. Sano felt thankful to know such kind people. On Saturday night, Yumoto called and said the snake's tail came from a rattlesnake. But since it was only the tail, Yumoto wasn't completely sure. Sano thanked him for the update. Still, he thought it was strange. Rattlesnakes don't live in Japan. He wondered if he should tell Mia, but he didn't want to scare her for no reason. The vets and police later said that the exterminator who died had been keeping the venomous snakes he caught. Sano didn't like that they had been let loose into nearby fields and mountains. He hoped the man had at least thought about what would happen to the snakes after he died. Sano thought the snakes could be food for his chickens, but they were living creatures too. That idea made him feel sad. He guessed the snakes had been taken care of once, but after their owner died, they were left behind. Thinking about things from their side made Sano feel heartbroken. He started to wonder what would happen to his own chickens when he was gone. He stayed quiet for a while, then opened his arms wide and promised his chickens he would live a long life. But Pochi and Tama just looked away. Sano called them mean and terrible. Only Yuma came close to him. With tears in his eyes, Sano gave her a hug. Still, he believed Pochi and Tama understood him too. Maybe they were just acting cold like they usually did. The next morning, Pochi and Tama ran through the mountains like they were letting out the stress from the week. Sano guessed they had also been chasing away animals that came near the house. He had heard that raccoons and wild boars often showed up in the area, but he hadn't seen any himself. Then Pochi came out of the bushes with a pit viper in his beak. Sano just told him to eat it. After that, Sano and Yuma went to check the fields, looked at the river, and checked the road conditions. Sano suddenly remembered he still needed to set up some nets and guardrails along the mountain roads. Since it was his private land, he had to pay for everything on his own. He felt upset just thinking about the cost. Even though he was worried, Sano sent a message to Mia about the snake. A few seconds later, Maya called and started to panic. Sano told him to calm down and suggested that he keep Tatsuki nearby at all times. He said that people couldn't really help with snakes, but Tatsuki would be the most dependable. Maya agreed and said he would talk to Tatsuki first. Sano could tell that Mia had calmed down a little. For Sano, his chickens were the only ones he could count on. But in Mia's mountains, Tatsuki was in charge. Even if Mia asked for help, Sano couldn't just go into Tatsuki's area. Mia knew how to rely on someone he cared about. Everyone liked Tatsuki, as long as she was doing well. Sano didn't worry anymore if she was out of his league. He sighed. Love and marriage didn't matter to him anymore. Just then, Sano's phone buzzed. He got a message from Aikawa thanking him for something that happened recently. But Sano didn't think it was a big deal. It was just Rin being her strange self. He was just happy he had his chickens. They were the reason he could live a peaceful life. He also remembered that the chicken's schedule was halfway done, and hoped nothing bad would happen before the rainy season ended.